Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out this evening. We really appreciate such a great attendance. It obviously shows how much this issue is importance to the citizens and to you, the advocates. Before I do more formal remarks, let me mention this. I'm Carl Stokes, Chair of the Recreation and Parks Committee, and to my left is Councilwoman Sharon Green Middleton, a member of the committee representing, I always forget, the 6th District. Thank you. Right. And to her left is the Vice Chair of the committee, newly minted Councilman Eric Costello of the 11th District. Glad to see
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
the councilman with us. This evening, to my right table over is Councilman Jim Kraft of the 1st District, a huge parks proponent, as most of you know, and we're glad to have the councilman with us. Next to him is Kara Kuntz, who is the legislative chief from Councilman Jack Young's office. Paul, last name? Who is also from the Council President's office. DePaul Nibber is to my right. He is staff to this committee. Again, before I do formal remarks and go to the meat of tonight's hearing, I'm going to break a little protocol for just a few minutes. Councilman Costello had and has a previous engagement this evening and will not be able to stay through the entire, but he is, and I and the rest of the committee will be working very thoroughly on what we hear tonight and moving to the next level of this. And respect for the councilman, there is a Mr. Rufus Lux, who is here this evening from the South Harbor Renaissance, who are constituents of his, and they're working on a private-public partnership at Federal Hill Park and looking to partner with the Waterfront Partnership. And so I am going to mention a point of professional courtesy here and allow Mr. Lusk to come forward to present his testimony, and then, again, with all respect, excuse him from having to remain throughout the session.
Thank
Sir?
you, Mr. Chair.
Sure, of course.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I am Rufus Lusk, and I'm speaking on behalf of the South Harbor Renaissance group this evening. We deeply appreciate this opportunity and the intelligence and the passion with which you devote your energies to this issue, which is so vital to so many people. I speak in support of Council Bill 15-0207R on behalf of all the directors of the South Harbor Renaissance Group. We are a registered 501c3 nonprofit formed in 2011 by a volunteer group of Federal Hill residents. We have one mission: to spearhead and support the improvement of the historic Federal Hill Park. To achieve that mission, we have established a transformative vehicle, a public-private partnership between the city's Department of Recreation and Parks as the park's owner, SHR as the park's advocate and friend, and the Waterfront Partnership of Baltimore as the park's manager. We are working to codify this partnership in a memorandum of understanding. Since its inception, SHR, in close collaboration with the Baltimore City Department of Parks and Recreation, the Commission on Historical and Architectural Preservation, the Downtown Baltimore Family Alliance, and the Waterfront Partnership, has devoted more than 8,000 hours of volunteer time and effort to the park and raised over $600,000 of public and private investment. We agree with the prevailing view that parks are the hearts and lungs of urban life and are a central pillar of the mayor's strategy to attract 10,000 new families to Baltimore. However, Baltimore City's parks, their needs are outstretching the day-to-day abilities. Federal Hill Park, listed on the National Register, is today a magnet not only for Baltimore City residents, but also for thousands of visitors from all over the nation and the world. We envision something new being done. That is, that Federal Hill Park would be operated and maintained to the first-class standards that have been shown over the last 10 years by the Waterfront Partnership of Baltimore, in close collaboration with the city. The park's programs and activities, while open to the public, of course, would be carefully managed to reflect and enhance the park's unique characteristics. The immediate proceeds from these programs and activities would be dedicated first to continue to support operations and maintenance, and secondly, in the event of any surplus, to set up a permanent Federal Hill Park endowment. Our specific recommendations are: number one, the full costs of Baltimore City's annual operations and maintenance for Federal Hill Park will be allocated to our group, South Harbor Renaissance, and the Waterfront Partnership of Baltimore, to be expended by these organizations solely at, in, and for the benefit of Federal Hill Park. Secondly, the full costs referred to above will be determined by an independent third-party expert. And thirdly, the costs for major capital improvements and repairs to Federal Hill Park will continue to be funded by the Baltimore City budget and by the appropriate state agencies. My organization, SHR, will continue its advocacy and private fundraising efforts to leverage the impact of these city funds in collaboration closely with the Baltimore City Department of Recreation and the Waterfront Partnership of Baltimore. We thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and we thank all of your colleagues for this opportunity to address you, and we look forward to your success.
Thank you very much. Is there any comments or questions from my colleagues? We've been joined by Councilman Brandon Scott of the 2nd Council District, who's also a member of this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank Rufus and the team from South Harbor Renaissance. I know they've been working tirelessly over the past couple years to make improvements to Federal Hill Park and for their vision of creating a public-private partnership with the Waterfront Partnership. And I think that's really a forward way of thinking, and I'm really appreciative for that. Thank you.
Thank you. We do consider this a partnership of public and private interests. And with the Waterfront Partnership, we have a wonderful group here in the city, and the Department of Parks and Recreation is an excellent organization, and we consider it an opportunity to work with all of them as colleagues.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lusk.
Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Nettleton, before you walk away, please.
I'd just like to add that I know firsthand that Recreation and Parks are very familiar and work very well with private partnerships. As an example, in my district with the Silburn Arboretum. And there's several organizations that, garden clubs and all kinds of organizations that work with the Department of Rec and Parks, and they have been doing that for years too. It's just a great example of some of the good work that they do over there.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Kraft.
Thank you. Mr. Lusk, I like the fact that you are so specific in what you're asking here. Do you envision a conservancy? What is your mechanism for governance in terms of when you would get this money, were it to be allocated to you and the Waterfront Partnership, how would it be managed? I know in Mount Vernon they've created a conservancy to manage their money there, and I know in Patterson, as part of our master planning, we are looking at governance mechanisms as to what to do. So do you have further thoughts on that, or is this as far as you gone with it right now?
This is basically as far as we've gone, but basically let's say the city is sending X dollars to Federal Hill Park, and please don't cut that off. So we would like to see that continued, and that would go over to the Waterfront Partnership, but we, SHR, would add money to that. So we would be in continual fundraising mode to probably do 2x what is being done now.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lusk. We appreciate your
Thank you so much. I'd like to
testimony and-
invite all my colleagues here to come over to Federal Hill Park sometime and see what we've recently done. Thank you.
We'll do that. We'll do that. We've been joined by the best president of any city council in the United States of America. Yeah, you are. Bernard C. Jack Young. Thank you, Mr. President. So we're here tonight. You know that tonight is being televised live as we are here now, and it will be rebroadcast. Check your listings, but you don't have many channels to choose from. It will be on only one channel, and that is Charm City TV. You have to have a certain cable company, frankly, to see it, although it is streamed, and so you can go to the web or not. Yes, no, yes. We have two answers.
No, the YouTube version of this will be posted on the website within about 24 hours, but you can't watch it live online.
Oh, you can't watch it streaming live, but you can go to YouTube after 24 hours and see it. Thank you. And so this will run live for the next couple of hours, which gives us our parameters, frankly, of how long we can conduct the hearing. We intend to have the administration and the persons of Ernest McKean, our Director of Recreation and Parks, Tom Stoser, our Director of Planning, and I think Howard Aylesworth from the Recreation and Parks Board, Chair of that advisory board. And then we're going to fully open this to the citizens and the advocates who are here this evening for the better part of tonight's hearing. So we will have plenty of time, being mindful of there is an end time in order to record and broadcast all that we have to say. So first of all, let me wish everyone a great and beautiful Earth Day. We didn't plan it, but it happened to fall exactly in the right place at the right time. So today is Earth Day, and please, let's everyone go out and hug Mother Earth. Please, let's do that. And so thank you for being here this evening. The fact that so many have come just points to just how overwhelming the interest is in this particular matter. The council resolution that we speak to, just to read the title and purpose of the resolution, is to invite all interested government officials, institutional leaders, and citizens to appear before this committee to discuss the status of all activities and planning underway in the city that might contribute to either maintaining the current open space estate or improving and expanding upon it, and to raise issues and questions about a governance paradigm for public open space that would ensure that Baltimore has a great and expansive system of public open spaces for the 21st century, one that is of no less vision and grandeur than that which the city had at the beginning of last century. Baltimore is noted, and rightly so, for our great history of park planning. Of course, much of that planning took place under the Olmsted park planning a century ago. But the city still obviously has great bones. The city has lost a couple of 100,000 residents in the last 40 years, and so there is much more unoccupied space in our still beautiful city. How we develop and redevelop our town is instrumental for our present and future well-being. That is for the joy of the open space and the parks. It is for recreation. It is for living. It is for economic growth. As you know, the more beautiful and the planning that takes place around great open spaces and park strengthens the economic vitality of cities and communities very, very much. Let me mention, before we go to testimony, how much this committee thanks the advocates of our city. It is overwhelming what the advocates, many of you who are sitting here this evening, have done to not only maintain, but to improve and enhance our public space, our open spaces, our parks over the last 40 years as the city, for many different reasons, have been not able to do as well itself, in its resources, in its time, in its effort. You have stepped up. You have stepped up and created new trails, new parks, beautifying open spaces. You've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions, to maintain and improve Baltimore's park system. The council couldn't be more grateful, more proud of your efforts over these years. Thank you so much. I know, speaking from a point of personal privilege, I've worked with Chris Delaporte, with Sandy Sparks, with Neil Freelander, with Sally Michael, and others, obviously others, but from a point of personal privilege, those are just a few of the people that I've worked most closely over my public life. And you men and women have done a tremendous job. If I'm overstating, I'm not overstating what you've done to enhance and maintain, in spite of the fact that in many ways the city was not able to do such a thorough job. Again, we thank you for that. Now, as we advance forward, this committee is holding this hearing, frankly, with some initiative, frankly, from the advocates, from most of you who are here this day, and I might say some aggravation by Chris Delaporte, but that's so funny. I think he appreciates it. But Chris is just great, and so. But we have Tom Stoser, who is just great as our planning director, and Lori Feinberg, who's the deputy, who's equally fantastic, and we appreciate them both. We obviously have a Transform Baltimore before us, which speaks in some portion to the matter of open space in the city of Baltimore. Actually, there's a mandate for developing open space in the Baltimore zoning code is to enhance the quality of life for city residents, improve its business climate by permanently preserving and expanding public and private lands as an important public asset and critical environmental infrastructure. Ernest McKean, who's been with us for not quite 2 years, 2.5 years, time does fly, and who's noted as just a terrific director and of Recreation and Parks. They both are and have been working on this open space planning and are here this evening to share with us, and the committee and the council role in this is to be as supportive as possible to what goes forward. Obviously, this planning cannot go forward as well as it could without the input of the advocates who have been out there for decades and who are here to give the input this evening. And so from this point on, we look forward to a mutual and relationship between the administration, the council, the citizens, the advocates, to the best plan possible going forward. Mr. Burkeen will begin us with speaking to, before Councilwoman Middleton, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thank you and appreciate your synopsis and summary, but I would like to add just one other point. I'm so glad we have Tom here representing planning, but Tom and myself are also commissioners on the Sustainability Commission, which that office is within the Office of Planning, and the Sustainability Commission also has goals that includes parks and trees and greening, and as you said, Baltimore is a place with a lot of open space and trees, water, and so on. And again, yesterday they had their annual meeting that really went well and you were there as well. And just make note that every month the Sustainability Commission has open meetings for suggestions and things to add to help in their planning as we move forward in the city with our green space and open space and parks. So I just wanted to add that little.
Thank you. And belatedly, we did invite the sustainability, not the commission, but the actually staff, but realized that they were disposed this afternoon. Right. He's got it. Mr. Burkeen, I have to do a little housekeeping. I was so excited about you coming up that I forgot to do a couple of things. And I do have reports from city agencies. Andrew Klein, the Chief of Bureau of the Budget and Management Research, has reported to us that City Council Bill 15-0207R has been introduced for the purpose of the Department of Recreation Park receives program open space funding, city general funds, and other capital funding for maintenance of and improvements to parks and open space. In fiscal 2015, Baltimore City Recreation Parks received $9 million in general fund operating dollars for park maintenance. These funds, cleaning and repairing playgrounds, preparation and maintenance of athletic fields, cleaning trails, mowing grass, mulching trees, and removing leaves and snow from the parks. Baltimore City Rec and Parks has a $1.2 million, had $1.2 million budgeted in state program open space funding in fiscal 2015 operating budget. There is additional program open space funding in the capital budget for specific projects. In fiscal 2016, the governor's proposed budget reduces that total program open space funding, but the impact on operating or capital is not yet clear. Tom Stoser, of course, is here. He will deliver his report to us, as will you, Mr. Burkeen. I also might mention that we received a number of letters regarding this hearing today. If the folk are here who intend to testify, I will not read the letters, but allow testimony to be delivered live. Is Mr. Dean Rundell here? And you intend to testify, sir?
I think the letter speaks for itself.
Sir?
I think the letter speaks for itself.
It does, it does, but you'd rather not testify. I have it for the record, and I could read a portion of it if you would prefer not to testify. It's your choice. Okay, Ms. Hammond, you are here to testify, is that right? Okay. Jennifer Robinson from the Friends of Patterson Park, are you here? And you intend to testify? You don't intend to testify? Okay. From Blue Water, Baltimore, Jonathan Barad, are you here to testify, sir? Thank you. From the Riverside Neighborhood Association, Jackson Fisher. Tom McGillivray from the Wyman Park Community. No? Here. Hi. Are you here to testify, sir? Thank you. And Mr. Lusk did testify. Ms. Wilson and Mr. Wilson are here, and they are testifying. Okay, I'm not sure who that is. Okay, so those who have written who are not testifying, I will mention at least some portion of their comments a little later. Every testimony will be entered for the record into the bill file, and anyone who gives testimony this afternoon, we would appreciate if you could give us written testimony so that it will be filed with the bill. It is being recorded by video, obviously, but we'd also like to put it in the bill file. Mr. McKean now, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President, Mr. Chair, and council members of the Recreation and Parks Committee. Thank you for allowing me to share the department's vision for parks, open space, and recreation moving forward. The department's previous strategic plan was done in 1991, which was 24 years ago, and much has changed since then. For the past 4 years, a healthy debate has taken place around active recreation centers, their locations, number of sites, independent nonprofit operators, service delivery, program quality. What has been missing, however, is a dialogue that connects the parks, trails, and associated health, environmental, and educational benefits in the recreation facilities. Changing demographics, new technology, shrinking budgets, and a health wellness challenge dominated by obese children developing type 2 diabetes calls for a more integrated approach for our parks, open space, and recreation system to address a much different future. The mayor's goal to grow the city's population together with the historic 1904 plan for the city's park system developed by the renowned Olmsted firm further reinforces the need for a strategic plan and bold vision for Baltimore's parks, open spaces, and recreation system for the 21st century. I have been involved with the development of parks plans previously as Director of Parks and Recreation in Detroit, in Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. These plans were instrumental in creating a thoughtful and comprehensive agenda not only to guide the department's capital projects and operating budgets, but to build citizen advocacy, political and financial support for the importance of parks, open space, and recreation. In the 2.5 years I have been in Baltimore, the department has already taken steps toward preparing for a new vision by, number one, undertaking an assessment of existing recreation services and facilities, following up on a directive from the Mayor's Recreation Task Force report. The department worked with the consultant firm Greenplay to both analyze facilities and programs provided by Recreation and Parks, non-BCRP entities. This geographic and programmatic assessment was done with the objectives to determine areas of the city lacking access to existing recreation facilities and programs, to evaluate duplication of services, to identify opportunities for further growth. Second, purposefully co-locating and integrating recreation facilities as a part of the department's capital projects moving forward. This includes recreation centers, pools, parks, athletic fields, and programs to maximize the number of activities and encourage family, multi-generational, individual, and team use of the city's parks and recreation resources. We look forward to briefing the council on our plan for recreation and aquatic facilities as soon as possible. Adopting an inventory of city parkland this past February by the Planning Commission. This inventory will serve as the beginning baseline to evaluate the city's current parkland and open spaces and define land strategies for the future. undertaking a city tree inventory. Proposed for funding in the department's fiscal year 16 budget, this inventory will categorize trees along city streets and in parkland. Creating forest management plans for major parks. The Forestry Division will be assessing the health of the tree canopy in forested areas in the city's major parks and developing maintenance and management plans to ensure the long-term health of these major park resources. Improving park and facility maintenance. The department has stepped up its turf and ball field maintenance programs through the acquisition of specialized equipment and staff training. My goal is to create a strategic plan for the future of parks, open space, and recreation that would include an accurate and official acreage of city parkland. This effort is currently in process by the Planning Department and the Recreation and Parks. A community vision that supports environmental health through nature and environmental education. One that promotes physical and mental health. One that provides safe and welcoming places for all, and advocates for the city to be a leader in sustainable practices. A collaborative vision for all groups providing recreation services in the city of Baltimore. This vision would include working with the Planning Department to ensure a comprehensive planning approach. A strategy to use vacant land as an opportunity to create better connections and add to the network of green spaces to and from parks and recreation facilities. The objective would also be to improve access and connections to public transportation, bicycle routes, walking trails. The Planning Department, through its Growing Green initiative, is already in the process of working on this. To expand the reach of the BCRP facilities to serve a broader socioeconomic group of residents and restructure program and rental fees and charges. The fee restructuring would provide a mechanism to ensure participation for all, regardless of income. Efforts in this regard are underway as part of a number of park and planning efforts in Cherry Hill, Patterson Park, the Middle Branch, Waterfront, Park Heights, Mount Washington, and Gwynns Falls, Lincoln Park. To build on future trends in the design and programming of recreation and aquatic facilities. This includes offering a wide variety of quality programs for all ages within attractive, state-of-the-art facilities. To identify existing parks or facilities that no longer function due to population shifts and develop a repurposeful alternatives for park and recreation uses. To emphasize recreation programs that focus on healthy habits and outdoor activities. To encourage community investment of funds and human resources for community gardens. To incorporate ongoing maintenance and capital replacement needs as part of the all park open space and recreation needs. And lastly, to develop a citywide land trust to enable the city's ability to increase and improve the provision of open space acreage. As I mentioned, work has already begun on some of these components through planning and implementation efforts by Recreation and Parks, Department of Planning, Downtown Partnership, and other nonprofit and private groups. The aim is to incorporate all of these efforts into a long-term, coordinated, and comprehensive strategy for parks, open space, and recreation for Baltimore City. My next steps to make this strategic plan a reality will be to define and develop a complete a scope of services by the end of 2015, to garner public support and identify public and private funding by July 2016, to issue an RFP for a consultant by September 2016, to begin a citywide planning process by January 2017. I envision a process similar in scope to the citywide effort undertaking for the Planning Department's 2006 comprehensive plans. This, Mr. Chair, concludes my remarks.
Okay, thank you. I saw the fabulous plan that you oversaw in Miami. I read through it thoroughly. I saw the plans. It wasn't yours, but that was done in Philadelphia, for example. And I saw the great merging of public and citizens. That is, government and citizens. how do you lay out and what you're thinking in terms of the citizen participation? For example, in Philadelphia, I know there were thousands of citizen individual input into the plan and the planning, not just taking a series of conversations, but actually the citizens were much of the working through as the head of government.
You can't have a strategic plan unless the citizens are involved. I mean, what that means is that there are many meetings all over the city, in every neighborhood, meetings for seniors, meetings for teens, meetings for youth. You have to meet with everyone that's in the city, business leaders, educational leaders. All of those must be included if, in fact, we're going to be successful. We've understood that in this department, there aren't going to always be that many dollars. And so we've had to change our thinking, making sure that we partner with different groups to accomplish some of the things that we have. The councilwoman spoke about Silburn and the Federated Garden. And there are many other volunteer groups that assist us in getting things done.
Okay.
So it has to be a joint effort. It's not just us. It's not us telling the citizens what to do or what they should want. It's got to be inclusive. The term that I use is that everyone has got to be under the tent if, in fact, we're going to be successful.
Sure, good. Is this process, is this within your present budget? Is this within your present budget?
No, and as I said,
I missed that.
and let me go back through it.
Okay.
So we make sure we're straight about this.
Okay.
I don't want you to say I told you something wrong, so let me make sure I say it straight.
Yeah, let's be clear on that.
Okay? My next steps, okay, is to define and develop and complete a scope of services by the end of 2015,
Gotcha.
this year. Garner public support and identify public and private funding by July 2016.
Okay.
Issue an RFP for a consultant by September 2016, and then begin a citywide planning process by January 2017.
Got it. Is there a ballpark number? I got it, public, private. We're all trying to, figure that out. Is there a ballpark number you think this might take us? You won't be held to it. I'm just asking.
Famous last words. Yeah, it's going to be probably right around $1 million.
Okay. Thank you. Councilman Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Burking, my question is just more of a comment, something that's near and dear to my heart that I know that you guys will do. Just want to get that out into the public. Just as we're doing this open space plan, much like the county executive has done in Baltimore County, I think that we should really take a hard look at improving our field spaces for our ball fields, our basketball courts, baseball fields, adding those turf fields through partnership like they have in other places, because we know that will save us funds down the road, but also our kids deserve the best of the best to play on as well.
You know that one of the reasons that our fields have not been good is because we've not had irrigation. And you should know that all of our capital projects that involve ball fields do include irrigation. They're either a turf field. If it's not a turf field, it has irrigation, and we're training our employees to be irrigation techs so that we can maintain the field much better than the county.
Thank you, sir.
Any other council comments? Thank you, Mr. Burkane. Mr. Stoser, identify yourself first for the TV audience. Thanks.
Good evening, Mr. President, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Tom Stoser, and I'm the Director of Planning for the city. And I really want to thank Director Burkine for his leadership and a very bold plan that we fully endorse in the planning department. And we would really love to see that come to fruition. It's actually something that the Planning Commission, along with the Sustainability Commission, has been asking for quite a long time.
Sure.
So the Department of Planning is fully supportive of the efforts of Recreation and Parks to develop a new parks, open space, and recreation master plan. We have in the past and will continue to work with them on the development of the plan. We support the approach as it will be inclusive of planning work and specific initiatives that have been done around open space, and we look forward to having this overall plan knit these pieces together for a greater parks, open space, and recreation master plan. I'd like to briefly touch on some of the ongoing initiatives and how they will fit in and be key elements of the plan that Director Burkeen mentioned. The city is fortunate, of course, to have the Olmsted Plan from 1904 as the basis for our parks and open space system. We believe that building upon and enhancing that system should be the guiding principle for today's park, open space, and recreation planning. We also recognize that conditions have drastically changed in many neighborhoods over the past several decades, particularly in the inner city surrounding the east and west sides of downtown. Once populous communities have cleared out in some cases and leaving clusters of vacant lots and abandoned buildings. The Planning Department, with the support of the mayor and our sister agencies, such as Recreation and Parks, Housing, DPW, we see opportunities to strategically transform these clusters into new green amenities that can beautify and help stabilize these vulnerable neighborhoods. Under the Growing Green Initiative, the Planning Department is leading an effort that will strategically target demolition dollars to remove the blight, consolidate properties, and create green spaces, both permanent and temporary. Working with communities and nonprofit partners, the city will create new active and passive recreation spaces, community gardens, trail connections, forestation sites, and stormwater management areas. An overall goal will be to improve some of our most struggling neighborhoods, setting the stage for future investment and development while connecting them to the overall city parks and open space system. Funding to launch a comprehensive planning process for this Growing Green initiative is pending in the fiscal 16 budget proposal that's before the council now. In the meantime, the city is moving forward with 7 pilot sites around the city for the Growing Green initiative that demonstrate the greening reuse potential of these vacant and blighted properties. Funds for these initial sites, currently under final design, come from Housing, DPW, and the Environmental Protection Agency. Another major planning initiative now underway that will contribute to the overall Parks, Open Space, and Recreation Master Plan is our INSPIRE program, which stands for Investing in Neighborhoods and Schools to Promote Improvement, Revitalization, and Excellence. INSPIRE is the mayor's program that works with communities and stakeholders to leverage the investment coming to school facilities through the 21st Century Schools Initiative. 23 to 28 schools will be fully renovated or newly constructed around the city, and at every one of those sites, Planning Department is conducting a neighborhood planning process focused on improving conditions in the communities immediately surrounding the schools. We are also redressing reuse potential for the 26 school buildings proposed for closure and surplus under the program. We know that the rebuilt schools and their surrounding grounds will be additional assets for community recreational use per the state enabling legislation for the 21st Century Schools Initiative. Some of the closing school sites may also offer new recreational and open space opportunities around the city. All of these need to be considered in the new master plan discussed by Director Burkeen. Efforts are also underway to improve our recreation and open space assets using one of the city's newest funding sources, local impact aid from the state gaming revenues. In Park Heights, Funds have already been used to expand the park adjacent to the C.C. Jackson Recreation Center in partnership with the Ripken Senior Foundation and the Baltimore Ravens. Further enhancements to the park are getting underway, and the recreation center itself is also about to expand and offer enhanced programs for area residents. And that's really an important piece we see as we rebuild the entire Park Heights community. This will be a key asset to build on. In South Baltimore, local impact aid has been earmarked to develop an implementation plan that will transform the Middle Branch into a true regional recreational and open space amenity with an array of water-based recreation opportunities like kayaking and rowing, bike loops that connect to the Gwynns Falls and Jones Falls Trail, and wetland habitat improvements that will allow city residents convenient access to nature and wildlife. The Planning Commission's recent adoption of the updated Bicycle Master Plan, including the creation of a new Bike Plan Advisory Commission to oversee implementation, further strengthens the citywide network of parks and recreation resources by providing direct connections to these assets. Another plan we recently have adopted, the Disaster Preparedness Project and Plan, otherwise known as DP3, which was adopted by the Planning Commission in 2013, also contributes to the Parks, Open Space, and Recreation Master Plan by calling for the use of parks and green corridors to make the city more resilient to the impacts of climate change. In addition to providing recreation opportunities, an interconnected system of open spaces can contribute to stormwater and floodplain management, expand the city's tree canopy, reduce urban heat island impacts, and provide habitat for wildlife. This is very consistent with our Growing Green initiative, and there's actually a regional initiative called the Baltimore Wilderness Project that is doing this for the region overall, and there's going to be a launch at a city site within the next few weeks to really get the program known to the general public. A growing city needs to enhance its park spaces. Downtown Partnership of Baltimore recognized this when it created its Downtown Strategic Plan in 2011, which specifically called for a new downtown open space plan. Planning and the Downtown Partnership jointly coordinated on this planning effort, and I believe Nan Rohr will be speaking briefly about the ongoing implementation of the plan recommendations later on tonight, but there's a number of projects specifically initiated out of that plan that are moving forward. A similar effort has been undertaken by the Waterfront Partnership with the involvement of BDC, planning, and other stakeholders to set out a new vision to enhance the Inner Harbor public spaces with a special emphasis on revitalizing Rash Field. State and capital funds are earmarked for these improvements called for in the new Inner Harbor 2.0 plan over the next few years. And I would add that a specific objective of that plan is to make the harbor a more attractive asset for residents and not just tourists. I'm wrapping up shortly. We also think it's important to bring in our state and federal government partners and all the nonprofit stakeholders involved with parks and open space. And some of them include, of course, Parks and People, Baltimore Green Space, Blue Water Baltimore, Civic Works, Waterfront Partnership, Downtown Partnership, Chesapeake Conservancy, Living Classrooms, Rails to Trails Conservancy, Baltimore Rowing Club, all the Friends of the Parks groups. It's a long, long list, and we're excited to work with all of them. So thank you for the opportunity to share our ongoing efforts and our vision for this new master plan that we think is essential for the long-term growth and sustainability of the city.
That's great. Is there any comment, questions from my colleagues? Before you sit down, Mr. Stokes, let me ask you, when we are doing new commercial or residential development in the city, do we have standards or requirements that say there must be open space, or there's a requirement of how much open space? Do we do this at all as we build out residential or commercial. I know some of our jurisdictions do.
Right. There's not, because the city is mostly built out, there's not an overall policy such as you might see, or a requirement, I should say, in some of the counties that when a developer comes in with a project, they are required to set aside X amount of open space or a school site, build the roads. We have a different built-out environment. We also have a different market environment that doesn't, as you know, as well as anybody in the city, to attract new development, we often have to offer incentives rather than demand that developers put things on the table in addition to their construction costs. That being said, when we have a scalable project, such as places come to mind like Uplands, Park Heights, Cold Spring, we do have opportunities where we are more or less building brand new communities. EBDI may be the best example. They are, centering, after lots of discussion, their whole new development around the creation of a new park. So it's something we always look at while we're reviewing master plans and planned unit developments, and it's an element we see as essential. But we haven't found a way to mandate it or require a ratio because circumstances are so different in so many of our neighborhoods.
Okay, I encourage that we relook that, frankly. It's not a pushback, but I do encourage we do that. As we said, as I mentioned earlier, we've lost a couple 100,000 people in the last 40 years or so in Baltimore. We do have a lot of unoccupied buildings and new space that may be built out. It's not being used, and certainly we could create open space, where there was none. Obviously, some other jurisdictions make sure, even in a New York, in a Manhattan, that has put in High Line and other small pocket parks. So I just encourage us to relook that.
I would say when you talk about the unused land, that is exactly what we're talking about with the initiative I mentioned, the Growing Green Initiative. And it specifically is going to evaluate where can we create new, both permanent and temporary open space, but we want to be able to create new amenities that enhance the park system and enhance the market conditions in some of these most struggling neighborhoods so we can attract new development.
Sure.
And that's
Sure.
like Park Heights, where we're sort of starting with a great new park.
I want to, and it might be another good example, commend you and your office working with the other agencies and BG&E on, that was with Rec and Parks, BG&E, and planning.
The Cold Spring TOD site.
Right, and they had to be very strategic in not messing with that certain grounds that basically you can't touch. And you got a commitment from a private partner to continue to keep that green space there growing, and they've agreed to add more trees and things like that. So
Well, it was with your support and a lot of help from the communities who really advocated for that.
yes,
So thank you.
it's like 5 or 6 communities all around that area.
Right.
And it's a good example of the involvement. They didn't do anything without the community support.
Great, good. So I just encourage that. I know we are doing it. Sometimes a developer walks in and says, maybe we can do some green space as an afterthought, as opposed to coming in and knowing that UDARP or the Planning Commission is not going to look at it at all if they haven't come in with an intentional open and green space as a part of their project. And that's what, frankly, this one council person is looking for, in an intentional a green space and open space in every development, because they can find a little space for folk. It's a very important, as we live in such a city. I got it. We're good. Thank you for your, all that you guys do over there at planning, Laurie. Even when we don't disagree, we're very agreeable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to, I need Howard Aylesworth, the chair of the Recreation and Parks Advisory Board, please.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say, too, that, you know, this is a great time to have this hearing because remember, we're still going through the Transform Baltimore as well, and things taken from this hearing can be also added and discussed in Transform Baltimore.
Right. Thank you. Good.
Okay, so I'm really pleased to come to this place because this is the first time this has ever actually, that I've been aware that there was this committee.
For the record, would you identify yourself, please?
Yes, it's Howard Aylesworth, and I'm the president of the Rec and Parks Advisory Board. And I do want to say that I'm very happy that this is an advisory board because it basically makes things more, you know, where you can work together with people instead of coming to an agreement and forcing it on somebody or asking them to do this. And so that is very good. Basically, what I wanted to do is to say that I think that we work at things from a different level, that we like to kind of look over things and understand how things are developing and so forth. And I must say that I think that Ernest has done a terrific job in bringing the Department of Rec and Parks into a better group. And that the whole idea of CAPRA, which is basically a way to have the Rec and Parks, you know, basically meet a national standard is really very important. So I actually came here to listen to people and not to talk to people. And I think that we have many people here who have things that they do want to say. What I would like to say is just really three quick things. One is what is an open space system? Why is open space important? And how is open space stewardship provided? And this is from a paper that was done in January 2011 by the Greater Baltimore Parks and Recreation Alliance. And that was, many of the people that were in that are in this room right now. But I just wanted to say that what is an open space system? I have, to this day, do not really understand exactly what specifically is an open space. And I think that it's not that, you know, back and forth or anything, but I think that we do have to have some, you know, very good ways of listening with that. So why is the open space important? So basically, although technology is the driver of human development, the environment is the limiting factor of our success. And basically, I think that we do have to recall that we are part of a species and we are cousins and everything else to other species, and that we have to be critical about that. Basically, I think that you know, the basic issue is health in many ways, but open spaces are engines for sustainable growth. They clean the air and maintain water quality. The open spaces promote public health and safety and provide critical educational and reflective experiences, and I think that that's very important. And finally, a coherent open space system preserves our heritage, promotes connection, and tears down walls. And these benefits are measurable. Some are immediate, others are over time. And then finally, we have how is open space stewardship provided? We're not really clear about that right now. I think that what we've heard is that there is a really good group of people that are working on this and trying to make it happen. And all I would say is that Stewardship is a coherent, well-managed open space district that provides balanced social and economic growth as addressed by the Baltimore Sustainability Plan and the Rec and Park Strategic Plan, and implemented through the Open Space Master Plan. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments from
I doubt it.
colleagues?
Good.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah,
We
let's-
appreciate you
let's
before you
listen-
were president
let-
and the work you were not doing with Herring Run and
Right.
others.
So now let's listen to people.
Thank you, sir. We're going to take testimony from the advocates who are with us this evening, and we did have sign-up sheets and asked that if you wish to testify that you checked off. And if you missed that part about checking off, I will just ask you if you wish to testify, and there's nothing magic about checking off. If you wish to talk, we will. We don't have a clock, and we're not going to have a clock, but I ask, if I might, if you could stay within about 3 minutes so that we can hear everyone who is present and wish to speak. I'm going to ask Lisa Schroeder of Parks and People if she would bring her testimony, please.
Good evening, Mr.
Good evening.
Bring it down, okay. Can you hear me now? Does that
You're
work?
good. Just
It's
restate your name and
Yes,
affiliation, please.
Lisa Schroeder. I'm proud to stand before you as the new president and CEO of the Parks and People Foundation. And Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, and members of the council, thank you all for your leadership and your resolve in bringing this resolution forward. The Parks and People Foundation is an organization with a legacy of more than 30 years, founded in 1984 by a mayor, a civic leader, and the director of Parks and Recreation to work in collaboration with government and the citizenry to address, and I quote, the unique and challenging problems of a large, older urban recreation and park system. The foundation was formed as a public-private partnership to develop new programs, raise and manage funds, mobilize volunteers, and to, quote, otherwise lessen the burdens on the government of Baltimore City in providing for the welfare of all of its citizens through a system of parks and recreational facilities for their use. We are proud of our dedicated partnership with the city, and I'm impressed here today by the resolve of the leaders who have testified and the wide range of programs, projects, and initiatives that are underway or envisioned. So let me focus on how I believe we can help. Ours is an era in which we all worry, and especially in government, about the paucity of resources. And so lest we be discouraged, I want to take just 1 minute to describe what a city in fiscal distress and under state oversight achieved with partners working together. I have returned home from Baltimore from Pittsburgh, another hard-working, architecturally distinctive city with a unique legacy that suffered an economic trauma when the collapse of the steel industry forced the exodus of half its citizens. 15 years ago, when prospects looked daunting, 44 citizens and public officials came together to create a new vision for the degraded, abandoned, and inaccessible riverfronts. Through 120 public meetings, they created a vision to restore, repair, and transform 13 miles of riverbanks into a new center for community life. It was my honor to lead the nonprofit organization dedicated to implementing that vision plan. By working together, we raised more than $130 million to build a system of trails, parks, promenades, and marinas that connected the public to the water for the first time in a century. For every dollar invested in planning, 24 were invested along the riverfront in open space, and ultimately more than $4 billion of real estate investment transformed a lagging downtown into a hub of the region. I cite this not to dazzle you with economic development statistics, but to note that the realization of public open space has been a key part of Pittsburgh's recovery, has helped to revive the way that Pittsburghers think of themselves and their city, and now serves as a key attractor for new workers and visitors and a continually rising number of daily users. But this hearing is not about Pittsburgh or indeed about any other place than Baltimore. Ours is a city that's being rediscovered every day for its quality of life, its character, and its cultural spirit. But we can all do better if the city has a refreshed and coordinated open space plan, one that connects Baltimore's historic legacy of Olmsted parks to the vital new and emerging waterfront parks, to the laboriously created trail systems along our stream beds, to the neighborhood pocket parks. Most important now for our consideration are the neighborhoods that are disconnected, those places where children still do not have a safe, healthy green place in which to play, those places where a concrete hardscape make life hotter, harder, and uglier, those places where there is not yet access to the system of trails and where beauty is hard to find. The power and efficiency of an open space plan is that it catalyzes the value of the assets that we already have in Baltimore. The Parks and People Foundation, along with the city and its many partners, have embarked in 2009 on a 20-year vision of Baltimore as one park, a city with a continuous network of green links to parks, landscape boulevards and paths, community gardens, squares, schoolyards, campuses, and recreation areas. We envision a Baltimore in which every citizen is connected to the environment through a vibrant network of green space every day, east and west, north and south, all neighborhoods. We cannot afford not to do this. Linking our existing assets may be the most efficient road to economic development and the fastest way to give all our citizens access to a healthy environment. But more important, it is certainly one of our noblest goals. The purpose of engaging the community on the aspirational scale that we're talking about here today is to catalyze change as efficiently as possible and make life better, with cleaner air, cooler summers, clearer water, safer neighborhoods, higher home values, and healthier, happier families who feel stronger attachments to their neighborhoods. And for the research behind all of these attributes, I'm going to give you a fact sheet. This has always been our mission, and it always will be. Please count on our help, our collaboration, our leadership, our dedication to public education, and our passion in the exciting times ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Trotter, any comments from here? Thank you, and thank your predecessors and the organization for doing all that you've done in terms of your time, talent, and treasure, obviously. A lot of treasure there also. So we thank you. Welcome back to home.
Thank you. I'm thrilled.
Thank you. Christian Wilson.
Good afternoon. My name is Christian Wilson. I'm a resident of the city at 9 East 27th Street. Some of the committee may recognize me from my backpack program, where we are feeding 300 homeless children, and our coat program, where we've, over the last 9 years, supplied a total of 7,900 coats.
Lift that microphone up a little bit, Mr. Wilson.
Sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. A great city is known by its public spaces, which are vital to the economic prosperity of these communities that sponsor such use of these facilities. Please consider Central Park in Manhattan, New York, which after several years during the 60s through the 80s suffered considerably, are now full of life throughout the system and encourage and have space for all types of sports, entertainment, and enjoyment by the citizens of that great city. To its credit, Manhattan has now expanded these open spaces throughout the city to include all areas of the city, but of major interest to the undersigned is the wonderful basketball courts along Central Park West that extend from 72nd Street all the way up to 110th Street, but also include other forms of sports for the entire family. Baltimore is set to consider these open spaces within Druid Hill Park and Patterson Park and neighborhood playgrounds that encourage our youth to enjoy being outside and to get the exercise that they need to grow into healthy adults. In our community, we have Wyman Parkdale, which is a perfect place to have a baseball field located within it to allow children of the community to participate in this game of skill and fun. Getting children involved in sports will allow them an opportunity to explore competitive sports as well as how to learn to interact with each other. The funding needs to be in place to support these activities in our communities throughout the city, which will make all of these open spaces a place of memories. And we are fortunate to have many of these areas available to us now that can be improved upon so that children and adults have a place to run and enjoy during their free time. Let's put forth a plan to develop as much as we can to ensure that our children grow and experience the fun of living in a city.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson, and thank you further for your backpack program, which is fabulous. Mr. Wilson, Mrs. Wilson, and others make sure that we have at least 2,500 children in Baltimore City Public Schools who are homeless, absolutely homeless. That's probably a low estimate. And they make sure that every weekend on Friday that these children receive a backpack of food that doesn't have to be cooked or refrigerated, so that they have food throughout the weekend before they have to come back to school on Monday. So thank you for that service, and all of those who work with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Wilson.
Good afternoon.
Yes,
Growing up in an apartment in New York City, I had available to me numerous open spaces, parks, and outside recreation facilities, all within a few blocks of my home. None of these spaces were closed off from the public, and we were all free to enjoy what was to an inner-city child and her family living in an apartment one of the most valuable city amenities, that of open space. Space to stretch your arms, space to run, to wander, to sit and breathe the outside air, to skate, to use playground equipment, to play basketball, to picnic on the grass, to watch the changing foliage throughout the year. It made my childhood a full and happy experience. So I strongly urge Baltimore City to incorporate all the areas possible to such open space and space devoted to play and sports, basketball courts, and baseball fields. This is vital to the health of the city and its citizens. This is particularly important in the poorest areas where children and adults yearn for common areas where they can enjoy what suburban families enjoy, a richness of life provided free of charge to them by their city. The health-giving experiences offered by the wonderful parks and playgrounds in Baltimore City must be protected. The city must be careful that in expanding parks and open spaces, these must be kept dedicated to all of us and kept as city-owned property, never to be restricted, never to be sold to developers, institutions, foundations, or any other outside entities. This would be a cruel blow to all of us who love our city. Please put through whatever legislation is needed to expand and protect parks, playgrounds, sport fields, and open spaces, and to never let any of it be taken away. These spaces also lend themselves perfectly to providing children, particularly those in the vulnerable ages of 9 to 18, distractions that will take them away and hopefully keep them away from gangs and from engaging in any type of personal property destruction that bored children are often lured to do. The city should fill these parks with craft, art, dances, aerobics, meditation, music, astronomy, formal sports classes, any other interests that would build children's mental and physical health, their self-worth, and their self-discipline. All the rehabbing of houses will not turn a city around if bored children become such nuisances and dangers that other people move away. Please do all you can to use these parks and open spaces to engage and support the children of our city in their most vulnerable ages. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Yes. Take that. Great, thank you. Any comments there? Hannah.
Good evening, Councilman Stokes.
Good evening, sir.
Members, Mr. Burkeen, good to see you again.
Definitely bring that microphone up a little bit, sir.
Bring it up a little bit? All right.
Thank you.
Is that good?
That's better, sir. You may have to project a little bit also.
All right, I'll try. Thank you for allowing me to participate in what I think is a very important issue. As we know, for many years and yet still today, many of our neighborhood parks and open space are either not being used or being used for all the wrong reasons. I believe that the time has come for us as a city to recognize how important these spaces are to our communities. As I travel outside of the city and I see other parks with nice playgrounds, sports fields, playground equipment, and constant activities, I ask myself, why doesn't our kids in our communities have the same things? And even myself sometimes will say, well, maybe because they'll destroy them. I've heard that many times.
Yes, sir.
But the reality is that until we start teaching our children how to play, there will always be an idea that our kids are the problem. I will share what I've learned in the last 3 years as a volunteer at ABC Park in Southwest Baltimore. As a homeowner in the Carrollton Ridge community, I noticed that we had have a small park in our neighborhood that the police department often used the building as a booking center when they did prostitution stings. The drug dealers operated open-air market and other illegal activities took place in that park. And the children of the community played in the streets, which seemed backwards to me and needed to change. So I made the decision to step up as a parent and as a community member to try to change things. I contacted Recs and Parks and shared my vision in which they supported. We cleaned the park along with the Navy. We repaired what equipment we could, painted the playground equipment to make it look a little better. And since that time, I've worked with Recs and Parks and various sponsors to help maintain that park, as well as activities such as fun days in the park, organized sports, in which we engaged 125 kids just last year in the football program, and also had 25 girls from the neighborhood as cheerleaders. We do movies in the park, which I found an old canvas and a rented machine, and we did movies in the park on Saturday nights, which attracted maybe 60 people sitting in the park, you know, watching movies that people said could never happen in that community.
Great.
I've even had somebody ride by and say, well, what do you think, you're in Fells Point? I say, no, we're just a community, just trying to have a, you know, just trying to enjoy, you know, our park.
It's all right.
So, you know, it's, I share this because my vision is to make this small park an example of what all city parks should be, full of children and families spending quality time in a place where they feel safe and comfortable. ABC Park is rapidly becoming that place. We're talking about a park that no one would even walk through 3 years ago to a park that is full of kids and adults daily. I understand that we cannot rebuild every park in the city and hope no one would destroy it. That's not reality. But if some parks already have attendants, why not expand their role to security as well as the attendant? I know the next question is, how do we fund this? It's simple. The same way we have M&T Bank Stadium, we have Royal Farms Arena, we have Utz Field, and other city-involved properties renamed after companies. On to the next page. We can create the Adopt a City Park project, asking businesses to adopt a small park. In return, they will be able to advertise their businesses in a city-approved manner within that park. In closing, think about your childhood memories in city parks, and think about how many kids will never have those memories. We're also in an area where we're slated for a school closing, where we have numerous kids that will have no place to play. Fortunately, I think we're in the process of a renovation soon, and which is going to be great. We have no basketball court there, but you can come by any day, and that park is full of kids. And I'm there every day. I've put in countless hours in the last 3 years. I show up there every day to make sure that the drug dealers, make sure that the unwanted people that want to destroy what we already have, and let them know that I'm still there. And this is our park, these are our kids, and this thing is bigger, you know, than the park. You know, the kids that come through that park daily, when I have time, I often visit the schools as well. And when I walk in the office and I see one of these kids, I go into the office and ask them why they're there. I've often been asked which kid is mine. I tell them all of them. I let them know all of them are mine, because I care that much about our kids and what we do daily. I want to, thank Recs and Parks because with the limited resources that they have, whenever I call, they show up.
Oh, good.
And we're constantly working on trying to make it a better place. And as I said before, in closing, this park is going to be an example of what all parks in the city should be.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. What a great citizen you are. Thank you. Great. Thank you so much. I know, Councilwoman Middleton, I know that many of these young people, when they are your age, will remember you, Mr. Hanna. They will remember you, and hopefully they will pay it forward and give in the way you're giving. Thank you for being just a tremendous citizen.
And I just want to add that you had made a statement that we might not be able to clean up and fix all of these parks, but I want to say, yes, we are. With
That's
people
right.
like you and working with Recs and Parks the way you have and others in here that have been giving testimony, we're going to make sure every park that has been, that basically neglected is going to be brought back to life.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I want to be in your army. You're my general. Thank you so much. Stephanie Murdoch. What a story Stephanie has. I don't know what she's going to say tonight, but I know.
Oh, you never know. Actually, in the interest of going green, I'm reusing my Taxpayers Night speech, and I've used this at a number of conferences, so, saving the parks one piece of paper at a time. My name is Stephanie Murdoch, and I would like to thank you, council members and agency representatives, for the opportunity to speak here tonight. I'm the president of the Skate Park of Baltimore, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to building a public concrete destination skate park in the city of Baltimore. I represent over 40,000 skateboarders in the city of Baltimore, and I've been at this for 10 years. I know that's just like a baby compared to many of the park advocates here tonight. I'm actually on my 7th director of recreation and parks in 10 years, and what I've learned is that if you can't wear them down, I can at least outlast them. But I know that's not going to be the case for Director Burkeen. He's got really big plans, and he's already been a tremendous help to the work that we do. In full disclosure, I am a city employee, but I'm speaking to you tonight as a city resident, a taxpayer, and despite my heels, a skateboarder. I want to start by commending everyone here in the audience tonight. If it wasn't for you guys, I can't even imagine what our parks would be like. It would be like wasteland, seriously. It's because of these folks that have kept this system alive where the city has failed. And I really just want to thank you guys so much for that, because it's because of you that we're here. Okay, I'm going to start with the good. The Skate Park of Baltimore recently had our first victory. We opened the first phase of a 5,000 square foot concrete skate park in the Hamden neighborhood of Baltimore. Thanks to a match from the city of Baltimore, we constructed a $180,000 concrete bowl. And since it's opened, it's almost doubled attendance to the skate park in that neighborhood, close to 100 young people a day. I've had people tell me that they've moved to Hamden to be near the skate park, and I'm actually in the process of buying a house now, and I figured I've been working this long, I might as well stick around and use it. And also, we are going to be celebrating the next of our victories, which will be the construction of Phase 2, Street Plaza. Thanks to our city and state partners, we've secured over $200,000 in state bonds to be matched by our city partners. So we're on our way to making our dreams come true, and the dreams of these young people who I've known since they were just children that are now in college, and they're saying, Miss Stephanie, when we gonna get our skate park? Because we're in Hamden. I also want to suggest a skate park system, because I have people coming from all over the city of Baltimore to Hamden to skate. So we need these facilities, maybe not as large, but we need satellite skate parks throughout the city of Baltimore.
Sure.
Our parks are our strongest assets. We have 6,000 acres of parkland, and our parks are our backyards. I don't know about you guys, but my backyard's about 10 foot by 10. And many of our yards are infested with rats. That's one call I get all the time at City Hall, help us with the rats. So people go to these parks as if they're their backyards to enjoy themselves. And what is open space? I think open space is a public place for self-expression. When I'm at the skate park, kids show up all the time. They're filming rap videos. They're doing photo shoots. They're having breakdance contests. They're flying drones. This open space serves so many different people, and it is one of our strongest assets that we need to invest in. It's one of the best park systems in the nation, but it's slipping, and it's slipping because of lack of investment. And we keep paying lip service to funding our parks, but we're not doing it. I think that's one of my biggest room for improvement. Our budget has been stagnant at around $35 million since 1989, okay? And this is despite privatization, inflation, reduction in services, and loss of facilities. And I want to commend our Recreation and Parks staff, because they work their butts off with the most limited resources to keep these parks clean and the lights on, and that's a lot to do with the budget that they're working on. I think that the outcome-based budgeting is difficult for recreation and parks to fit into. Right now, it's under stronger neighborhoods and healthier city, but I think we should put it in safer streets. Strong recreation and parks programming saves lives. Young people that are active, engaged, and healthy mentally and physically usually don't turn to drugs or to crime. So I think we should start looking at our parks as a way to help raise up our young people, because they need things to do and they need a safe place to do it. When people are afraid to go into their parks, that's a big problem. I remember when people would be afraid to live right next to Patterson Park, but would buy a house 1 or 2 blocks back. When our parks are open drug markets, that's a big problem. I think we need innovative facilities to meet the needs of our young people, multi-use destination facilities for locals and tourists alike. One thing I like to say is, for lovable, livable cities, add parks. So I guess I just want to end by saying that if we're going to grow green, if we're going to get more parkland, we need funding to do it. And I'll throw a number out there because I don't control the budget. Right now we're at about $40 million. Let's get it up to $60 million, $10,000 per acre for our parks, not just skate parks, but for all of our parks. And let's really put the money where, put our money where our mouth is and invest in these facilities that are a benefit to our community as a whole. Thank you very much for having this meeting tonight, even though this, This committee was created in 2010, and this is our first meeting. All the hundreds of bills that pass through City Hall, I refuse to believe more are not related to our parks, and we need to make sure that we have park representatives at the table for the variety of legislation that goes through this city, because it affects all of us. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Stephanie. Yep. Councilwoman.
I told you, with that kind of enthusiasm, we're going to cover all these parks.
Right, we are. And Ms. Burdick, I understand your next fundraiser is Tom Stoser and Ernest McKean on a skate-off at the Hamden Park. Right. Thanks, Stephanie. We appreciate that effort. Again, there's so many great stories in this room. Miriam Avens.
I've got to follow Stephanie.
Hi.
Hi. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Miriam Avens, the director of Baltimore Green Space, which is Baltimore's land trust for community managed open space. So the Parks Open Space and Recreation Master Plan will be knitting together the efforts of the Department of Recreation and Parks with work going on elsewhere in the city, government, and by neighborhoods and nonprofits. I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to talk about the special role of community-managed open spaces like community gardens and forest patches and pocket parks. In Baltimore, informal open spaces created by residents have a particularly important role, and that's because of all our vacant land. Baltimore City has about 15,000 vacant lots, and as you know, they tend toward blight. But we know of 225 community gardens and pocket parks sitting on 900 lots. And by the way, of those sites, Baltimore Green Space now protects 8 gardens and parks on 56 lots, just over 1 acre. The tiny amount of land for community-managed open spaces provides tremendous benefits to neighborhoods. These urban oases provide recreation opportunities. Some, like the Duncan Street Miracle Garden in the 12th District, provide fresh local produce, and they give residents an opportunity for the bonding and pride that come from working together and creating a lovely place. Many of our open spaces were created specifically to drive out urban ills, ranging from violent crimes and drug use, nuisances like public urination and dumping, to rats. This really works. We have seen over and over that while these spaces may not be perfect, they sure are more peaceful. Halcott Square in the 1st District is a great example of how that's built over time. So it's really not surprising that open spaces can raise property values. I could tell you about studies from other cities, but I'd rather tell you a story that I just learned yesterday. Yesterday was the day we closed the deal to protect the Mount Clare Street Community Garden near Hollands Park. And the assistant site manager told us that he had met a man who had just bought 2 houses on Mount Clare Street to renovate as an investment. And the man said that it was the garden that had convinced them that this was the place to buy property. We're also seeing increased investment near Brentwood Commons, which is also in the 12th District. I also want to tell you about forest patches. This is a category of open space that's been receiving attention in recent years. These are areas of at least 10,000 square feet of canopy, but not including street trees, pulled away from the street trees. Our research has shown that these areas outside parks account for 20% of the city's tree canopy, which we're trying to grow. That is, we've got a lot of small forest here in Baltimore. While this includes areas at Hopkins and on our private school campuses, more surprisingly, it also includes little areas of leftover land and parcels that have just been found to be undevelopable. There may be streams there or steep slopes. And now what's grown up is forest, big canopy trees with layers of smaller trees and shrubs beneath. You may know this is the kind of land that's best at absorbing stormwater. And together, the spongy soil and the trees are a system for slowing down, filtering, and dispersing the rain. They also clean and cool the air. And if you're thinking that, well, I'm talking about a whole bunch of tree of heaven and pigeons, well, that's just not what we found. We've been out to 88 of these patches. We found 50 species of native trees, lots of different kinds of oaks among them. We found 60 kinds of birds, including hawks, eagle, various warblers, and some birds that are considered forest specialists. Fairwood Forest in the 2nd District is a beautiful example of the kind of nature we're seeing. Unfortunately, a lot of these patches are also threatened by invasive plants like English ivy, which can take down trees and halt regeneration. We're working with residents who want to care for forest patches in their neighborhoods. The members of our Forest Stewardship Network have made great strides in saving mature trees from ivy, allowing regeneration by clearing forest invasives from the forest floor and replanting where needed. Both these forest patches and community-managed open spaces like gardens are really important resources for recreation and open space. And they're a great example of the initiatives to be incorporated into a master plan. We already have important partnerships with multiple city agencies. For example, in 2009, we worked with the Department of Planning, Housing and Community Development, and other agencies to create criteria and a process for the transfer of land and community use to qualified land trusts. We're also working with the Department of Recreation and Parks to coordinate our work removing invasives on non-park land with their work on park land. The list goes on. And this is just an example of the kind of public-private partnerships that allow our city to be more than the sum of its parts. We're looking forward to seeing this creative whole reflected in the plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you. Appreciate you. Neil Strayham, sorry. And I meant to say Nell. I apologize. I know better.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, my name is Nell Strachan. I'm retired, and since I retired about 6 years ago, I've spent a great deal of time at the Silburn Arboretum as a volunteer.
Okay. Lift the microphone a little, please. Lift the microphone a little, please. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes, you got it. Thank you.
The Silburn Arboretum Association contributes roughly $500,000 a year to the support of the Silburn Arboretum through the employment of professional staff, a professional educator who runs the summer camp, 3 professional gardeners who lead a team of volunteers who take care of the beautiful gardens, through volunteers who maintain the trails, weed, plant, prune, do cleanup, do the plant record keeping and mapping, provide tours for visitors, maintain the website, and very significantly seek grant funding for projects that require hiring outside contractors to do things like make improvements to the trails at Silburn. I think it's safe to say that the Arboretum would not be the same without the contributions of the volunteers and the financial support of the association. 5 years ago, it was my pleasure to co-chair with Jackie Carrera, who was then the head of Parks and People, and Terry Rubenstein, who was then a significant force at the Meyerhoff Foundation, a forum called Great Parks Make Great Cities, and I know some of you attended that forum. The audience for that forum was over 100 civic and governmental leaders, and the mission of the forum was to demonstrate broad support for financial investment in the parks and interest in the parks and the value of the parks. One of the speakers at the forum described the economic and financial benefits to the city of an investment, a financial investment in the parks. The presenter was Peter Harnick of the Trust for Public Land, and he has done a statistical analysis of how support for the parks translates into financial benefits. Environmental value through cleaner air, improved stormwater management, cleaner water, and increased tree canopy. Increased value to city residents through providing places for play, recreation, places to enjoy nature, and improvements to health through providing places for exercise. Improved economic value through increased property value of properties near parks, increased tourism, and increases in donated private money and time from volunteers who will support parks as parks get better. His data show that every dollar spent on improved parks produces about $3 of benefits to the city, which is a pretty good return on your investment. Nothing significant is accomplished without passion, vision, and leadership. We've all heard the saying, if you build it, they will come, and that's true. But there's a corollary for parks, which is if you take care of it, they will help you. They won't do it for you, they will help. It has to be a true partnership. There are many examples of cities that have benefited from huge commitments to a park. The Millennium Park in Chicago is one that has attracted national attention. And the letter submitted, the handout when we came in, lists other cities where a park has been transformative for the city. But it can't happen without strong vision and leadership. And I love the idea of a master plan. I'm a planner by nature, and I think strategic plans and master plans are wonderful, and only a comprehensive master plan would, for example, come up with a way to reduce the barriers to entering Druid Hill Park, which is surrounded by 6- and 8-lane highways. And I hope that the concept of developing a master plan truly engages the local groups and partners in the process. But I would add one note of caution to this. The key to a successful master plan is not making the plan, it's implementing the plan. And that's very, very difficult to do. And the best plan in the world, without funding to support it, is going to gather dust on various bookshelves in various offices.
Sure.
So I think the bottom line, from my perspective and perhaps others in the room, is send money. Send lots of money to improve the parks, and not just the recreation center. I'm a huge supporter of the recreation centers. They're wonderful. They provide very valuable services and fulfill important roles.
Sure.
But so do the trees. And the city is facing a huge emerald ash borer infestation problem. The city's going to lose, what, 200,000 trees or some huge number of trees. Invasive vines, all you have to do is drive on any highway, you'll see the vines are tackling the trees. We will lose what is so fundamental to the beauty of the city without a strong investment and a strong implementation of a plan. So please bundle up several $1 million of cash. I can give you the address of the Silburn Arboretum. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Make sure that you give us your written testimony if you have it. If not, would you send it back to us?
I will.
Councilwoman?
I just want to publicly thank you for your advocacy and volunteerism in helping to keep Silburn working and on its P's and Q's, and just announcing that wonderful partnership, because it is a very good partnership, and it has grown to even include Sinai Hospital, which is nearby, with partnerships. And Silburn has, you had mentioned recreation. They, besides it's just being parkland, we have that Vollmer Center that's been thriving there, and there's a nature center, a bird museum. It's a wonderful example of how it can work, and it takes a lot of work. There's back and forth disagreements, but sometimes we do come to, in fact, most of the time we do come to a consensus. And Mr. Burkeen has, when he stepped in, he corrected some things that that had a history of that particular spot, and now it's really progressing, and everyone is working wonderfully together, and we have a wonderful product there. So that is one of the beautiful jewels of the city, so don't forget it.
Well, thank you very much. I know you're a neighbor, and I hope to see you at Silburn sometime soon, and the rest of you whenever you would like to visit. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And the intent of the committee is not only to encourage a plan, but also to be supportive of the implementation and the funding that must come behind it. I failed to acknowledge earlier, but will right now, our former colleague, not necessarily in this body, but Delegate Kenneth Montague, former delegate and Secretary of Juvenile Justice. He's here today as a Master Gardener. And Delegate?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's really a pleasure to see you here. And I thank you and the committee for giving me the chance to say a few words about the Master Gardener program. As the councilman knows, the Master Gardener program is also located at Silburn. And I wanted to talk to the committee about Silburn as an educational venue.
Thank you.
The Master Gardener Association is an entity of the University of Maryland Extension Service, and the goal of the program is to provide fundamental horticultural education to people who are not professional farmers, but rather who are home gardeners. each jurisdiction that has one of these programs tailors the program to the specific needs of their communities. And our community, of course, is Baltimore City. We train people who apply for the course in basic horticultural and environmental correctness, so to speak. And the idea is that with that training, they will go out and be available to interface and interact with communities and individuals throughout the city of Baltimore to train them and show them how to do basic horticultural practices and meet environmental standards. So it's a training program to provide a resource to the citizens of Baltimore. I took the course. I was surprised at what I got, because I got not only the course, but I had to make a commitment. I had to make a commitment to provide 40 hours of volunteer service in my first year, and then in subsequent years, in order to be certified, I had to provide an additional 20 hours, and then, of course, I had to maintain my education. So it's a program that really is one that is designed to provide that continuing access to very up-to-date, modern agricultural processes, and to help people to abide by those. We have tackled a number of things at Silburn. Some of the things that I'm interested in as the new president is bettering our relationship with schools. We have a schools committee. And one of the first issues that confronted me as a master gardener was being invited to Sharp Leadenhall School. I was doing some work down at the farmer's market. Someone asked me, said, they found out I was a master gardener, and said, can you come over to Sharp Leadenhall? We just got a grant from Lowe's to get a hoop garden. I said, well, sure, I'll go over there. And I tried to maintain contact, but it was around May. As you know, the farmers markets begin to open in May, and I lost contact. And what came into mind was, well, what happens with students? And I know that there are a lot of Baltimore City schools that have these programs, gardening programs, where they train some of the young people in gardening principles. And I said, I wonder what happens to the kids when school's out. And I asked the chairman of our schools committee, and she said, well, you know, there's some problems there that we have not been able to resolve. So what I have determined to do is to try to find an answer to that, because I don't think that the young people should lose the benefit of their start because they can't complete. Right. The other thing is with Silburn in particular, it's an educational venue. The thing about the education is that our classes are held on the campus of Silburn. For 4 months, we go there, we get taught by some of the professors at the University of Maryland. And Silburn is also our laboratory. The volunteers, the students who are interns, and also some of the certified master gardeners work on the grounds of Silburn as volunteers. They develop and maintain the water gardens, the demonstration vegetable gardens, and the All-American Species Gardens. Those are maintained by master gardeners. The thing that it is, it is the opportunity and is the place where not only do we get our academic,
Sure.
we also get our practical experience. It's important that we recognize that parks, particularly Silburn, is an educational venue.
Sure.
What we're hoping to do also is to engage with more young people, to get them out to Silburn, to not only to enjoy the beautiful trees and forests and so forth, but also maybe even to develop some type of an educational program to continue the education that is started in the public schools. Just wanted to come here and say a few words to you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate, Mr.
Okay.
Secretary. We appreciate that
Okay.
very much.
All right.
Good. Councilwoman?
While you're giving your testimony, my mind was racing, and I think you probably should have a conversation with the new Director of Employment Development. There's going to be a training center open not too far away, right on Park Heights Avenue, called JARC, and they're also looking for partnerships and connections, and I'll give you that information. That, you know, that I just see maybe a partnership developing, because they're, you know, it, not just for students, we could also reach ex-offenders, and, you know, it's a wealth of ideas that could probably spin with this.
Okay, it's interesting that you mentioned that. This morning I was teaching over at what we call the Meadows Project, which is in the Metropolitan Transition Center, which is a part of the Department of Public Safety and Corrections. So we have 7, we started out with 9, we now have 7 students there who we're doing basically the same program, scaled back a little, but we're doing the same program. But
With the school system, what age group are you, is it high school or middle school and high school? Are you interested in, as far as with the extension service program there?
we are interested in all of them.
All, okay,
All of them,
all
yes.
grades, that's good to know.
Yeah. But I wanted to mention that Meadows Project because it has an impact on something that was also mentioned before in Baltimore City. This is part of a research program that is being sponsored through the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And the Meadows Project actually looks at vacant lots in Baltimore City. What the researcher is doing is to look at what plants can be used to, first of all, mitigate the ugliness of the vacant lot, be of less cost for maintenance, so that the city would have to spend less money maintaining them, but at the same time get a level of acceptability to those vacant lots. It's funded, I forgot why it's funded, but it's a project through the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, with a Dr. Chris Swan, who's a biologist who is directing it. But he asked us to train the people he's working with in the basic principles of horticulture so that they would know a little bit more about what they are doing and why they're doing it.
Okay.
So.
Great. Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
Sure.
Thank you. So earlier this year, a group leadership of the Baltimore Open Space Alliance held an event. I think it was at the Wind-Up Space on West North Avenue, and they were have been talking to their peers, the millennials, and raising a lot of interest in this matter of open space. I see that 2 of that leadership has signed up to speak this evening, Dave Roselle and Raleigh Sullivan. So would you guys come forward, please? Thank you. Thank you.
Good
Okay.
evening,
Thank you.
everyone.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing well. Can you hear me? Thank you, Councilman Stokes.
You have to speak a little louder, please.
Okay.
And identify yourselves for.
Sure. My name's Riley Sullivan. I'm a resident, and this is.
I'm Dave Roselli. I'm also a resident here in Baltimore.
And we have created an alliance, the Baltimore Open Space Alliance. It's a nascent.
Let me stop you a second. I apologize. I know it's 2 of you, but whoever's speaking at the moment should stand right in front.
Directly? Okay.
Right in front of the. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
We are a nascent citizens advocacy group for open space in Baltimore. Like a lot of these advocates, we're volunteers. And a little bit of background. The inception of the group began at a meeting of a few interested individuals at the 2014 Create Baltimore event, and has piggybacked off of initial efforts of advocates from 2013. And so we have an online presence now, and we hope to use social media to sort of carry on discussions about open space. And because I know we're all limited with time, and so online is a good way to keep the ball rolling, we think. We also believe the Alliance can fill a void in political advocacy and policy for open space, as we've seen a lot of these groups do a lot of awesome work, but they get bogged down a lot of time in the projects themselves by nature. And so it's harder for them typically, and for the city to take on larger political and policy issues and plans, so it's very exciting to hear the department talk about an open space plan. We fully endorse that and would like to help in any way we can. So currently we're meeting with all the direct advocates and stakeholders with the goal of bolstering communication among the various citizen and city organizations to uncover common goals that need broader support to achieve results. For example, this could include adequate open space policy that addresses new development and redevelopment, long-term funding streams, an open space plan, increased promotion, recurring programming surveys to make sure we know that the open space is designed for the people and it's up to date, more public outreach, et cetera. And just, I don't want to spend too much time, but basically, we're here just to support policy to protect and improve this asset, develop a greater vision for open space in the Baltimore region, increase support for its stewardship. We believe this is a top-tier issue and fundamental for healthy growth of the city. And just as a citizen and a member of the Open Space Alliance, we hope that we can pool the resources to develop a plan with a realistic timeline. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just wanted to go over what exactly we are for. So overall, we are advocates for a greater quality of open space in Baltimore City. We believe open space, which includes large park space like Druid Hill Park, down to local street life, as a vital health sign of the city. And in that regard, we see open space as a critical asset for Baltimore's creative and cultural health. We are confident that Baltimore can express its vibrancy in the public realm through thoughtful and interdisciplinary collaboration among the shapers of our built environment. We see this as one of the traits that tourists and visitors will appreciate about Baltimore, rather than an overly branded shopping experience among corporate stores that's currently promoted downtown. However, if we remain apathetic, self-interested investors will be the only ones who benefit, as they will profit off of influencing our built environment, which inevitably shrinks the public realm, the space in which great landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted saw as where people of all backgrounds are able to socialize, forcing us out of our rigid social class structures. We see the role of the local government as being one that balances its responsibility, one that encourages good development and also keeps in mind the interests of the people. We ask that the City Council to see open space not as a peripheral topic, but one that is central for a major city in today's global landscape. We believe it is a task of the city to lead this charge and come up with an inclusive, thoughtful strategy in the form of a comprehensive plan that will bring our visions of what we know Baltimore can be to reality. And we are appreciative of this hearing today, and we look forward to see the work that emerges from it. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your greater effort and pulling your peers together to be very much interested in the future to be a part of the ongoing planning and implementation also.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to leave testimony? Thank you. Regina Hammond. I might mention at this point that it is likely that the live broadcast has stopped, but when it goes up on YouTube tomorrow, the entire hearing, no matter how much longer it goes, the entire hearing will be recorded and will be available for viewing after tonight. Ms. Hammond?
Well, thank you for inviting us, and I definitely want to thank for the support of the Johnson Square community for coming to support us today and share with you. I'm the president of Rebuild Johnson Square, the community association there. I'm a transplant from Rosedale, Baltimore County, but moved into Johnson Square 30 years ago, excited about being a new homeowner. But basically what we found after that excitement sort of weighed away was we ended up seeing people moving away, an increase in drug violence, boarded up homes, stash houses, demolition of properties which ended up becoming empty lots and dumping grounds. And a complacent community association. So ended up having to take matters into my own hands. We had no structured recreational programs. The parks weren't being utilized. So ball playing started taking place in the middle of the street. We ended up having broken rearview mirrors, dented vehicles, damage to our property, and door knocking and running was the recreation for our neighborhood. We didn't have the programs in place. Ended up creating a new association, so we ended up partnering with the Build organization and several nonprofits. We have a representative here from the 6th branch today that has been priceless in helping us revitalize our communities. City departments have been very helpful, churches and businesses. We regularly host the cleanups. We have adopted multiple lots in the Johnston Square communities, and we have transformed a neglected, dilapidated park, the Kennedy Park in Johnston Square, to the point where usage has increased twofold as a result. What we found it wasn't that Recs and Parks didn't want to help us, but the challenge was the funds were not available to take care of all of the parks in Baltimore City. So one of the biggest things I know that has to happen is more funds need to be allocated to help the partnerships do what they want to do with the parks in the area. The other thing that we see that is going to be very helpful is to develop an expedient working partnership, not only between the community, but nonprofits such as the 6th branch, city agencies like the Department of Housing, who have also been very instrumental in helping us revitalize the Johnston Square community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I thank you, Ms. Hammond, and her colleagues have done a great job of bringing back a playground in Park Kennedy, which happened to be my home playground as a youngster on Inter Street. Thank you. Keith Hammond. You good? Dave, how about Dave? You want Dave to speak? Okay, thank you. Guy Hager. Is Guy still here? Oh, there he is. Sorry.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Chairman Stokes and Councilman Middleton. My name is Guy Hager. I'm with Parks and People Foundation, and very pleased to be here this evening to support the resolution that's under discussion. Since the hour is growing late, I'm going to be very brief. We've already heard about all the positive things that well-maintained and enhanced park systems can do for our community and the citizens and residents here. But I think that we face, as we go forward to enliven and renew our vision for the future of our park system, we face two challenges. The first one is going to require tremendous leadership from the council, and that is figuring out how to increase resources to the Department of Recreation and Parks, and as was said so eloquently a moment ago, to the partnerships in the community that are trying to hold the system together. And that is not going to be just, I think, city government resources. We're going to have to together figure out how to bring in public and private resources in a very innovative way. So that's a challenge for all of us, really. The second challenge, I think, is that as we start envisioning all the wonderful things that everybody wants to do, is going to be pulling everybody together around one system that can democratically and equitably serve the community in terms of how open space can do that. And that's going to be a very big challenge. You're going to hear as you go forward with ideas of focusing the planning strategically for this area, that certain people are going to be looking for what they want in their local area. And so that is a challenge because we really need a citywide system. And that's what the Olmsted plan or Olmsted report in 1904 advocated. So those are the challenges. Parks and People has had a role over the many years of empowering, facilitating, and helping community groups to get organized, to become stewards of their local green space, parks, and other spaces, vacant lots and schoolyards. And we are here to continue doing that. And we are available, all of our resources and our skills, to help in this movement forward. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Appreciate your service ongoing. Is Councilman Landers still here? Well, there he is. Well, come on down. Councilman, how are you? Again, as in the case with the delegate, I should have acknowledged you earlier. My apology.
You didn't see the list, that's no.
We sat next to each other. Didn't we sit next to each other?
We
Pretty
did,
close.
yes.
Yeah, I thought
right,
we
right
did.
over there, yeah.
Right there.
Mr. Chair, Councilwoman Middleton, I want to applaud you two for sticking this out and giving us all an opportunity to have a say here. I'm just sorry that there weren't more colleagues who were present here to hear this, because it's really important. First, I want to say, just by way of background, I'm a lifelong resident of Baltimore City, and I had the opportunity to serve as a mayor's representative under William Donald Schaefer, and during that time kind of served as staff to what was then the Mayor's Herring Run Advisory Committee, which back in the 70s tried to develop a kind of a comprehensive plan around the Herring Run Park. I went on to serve as the executive director of the Harbell Community Organization, served 2 terms here in the city council with the chairman here. And, but for the past 28 years, I've also been involved in the real estate industry. And I've been an active realtor for almost 14 years, and for 14 years, I served as the executive vice president of the Greater Baltimore Board of Realtors. So I know a little bit about open space, and and I also served as one of the founding members of the Friends of Northeast Parks and Streams, which led to the Herring Run Watershed and was a precursor group to Blue Water and some of the other organizations today. I want to dispel the notion that developing a comprehensive plan and parks and open space are simply about aesthetics, recreational activities. It's not just altruistic. It's not just about children. It's not just about sports. The fact is that a plan like this and a well-maintained, well-thought-out park and open space system is just as important to the city's growth, development, and fiscal well-being as jobs, housing, schools, and public safety. A well-maintained park system and open space adds real economic value. And I want to, harken back to something Nell Strachan said. $1 invested yields $3 in benefits. Now, some of that's maybe intangible, but a good portion of it is very tangible, and I want to talk about that. It has a measurable impact on real property taxes. And I'm going to leave you with, I happen to have 2 copies of this study that I'll be referring to.
Okay, thank you. Great. You have one more copy or you don't?
That's it, but I'll send you a,
We'll copy, thank you.
No.
No.
This is a study, actually, it's a synopsis of a study that was done by John Compton with the Department of Recreation and Park and Tourism Sciences at Texas A&M University. And in this paper, and this is really just a summary, it's actually a larger study that he did, he talks about the proximate principle, which states that the market value of properties located proximate to a park or open space are frequently higher than comparable properties located elsewhere. He goes on to cite 20 different studies, and I'm on page 2 of this. Approximately 20 studies investigating the issue have appeared in the past 2 to 3 decades. Most of the results have been published in peer-reviewed journals, which suggest that they meet the standards of good science research. They overwhelmingly verified the legitimacy of the proximate principle. A study of the effect of green belts on property values in 3 different areas of Boulder, Colorado. Think about this. Boulder, Colorado. We think of Colorado as it's all open space.
Right.
And yet, this study showed that there was a $4.20 increase in the price of residential property for every foot one moved away from the greenbelt. Now this is the really important statistic here. This suggested that if other variables were held constant, the average value of properties adjacent to the greenbelt was 32% higher than those located 3,200 feet away. So a little more than a half-mile away, properties were selling for 32% less. They demonstrated that the approximate effect is substantial, up to 500 to 600 feet, typically 3 blocks away. In the case of a community-sized park of 30 acres, the effect may be measurable out to 1,500 feet, but 75% of the premium value generally occurs within 500 to 600 feet. So what does that talk to? That talks to having a lot of green space scattered around the city so that neighbors can have access to it in a relatively short distance and walking time. The study suggested that a positive impact of 20% on property values abutting on fronting on passive park area is a reasonable point of departure for estimating the magnitude of the impact of parks on property values. A series of studies done in New York City reported similar positive impacts emerged when substantial capital investment was made in renovating existing parks. The evidence shows that the type of park also influences the premium, with passive parks generating the greatest premium, while properties adjacent to active parks may decline in value. Now, here's the important point here. That's why you should do this under a comprehensive plan that takes into account what kind of open space you want and where.
Right.
Because it can have a positive impact, it can also have a negative impact if it's one of these active parks. And a good example of an active park is a skateboard park.
Sure.
I mean, you have to be careful where you place it because it can have a negative impact as much as it brings positive benefits to the users. So it really underscores the need to take a comprehensive approach to this. And here's the other main point. In addition to noise, congestion emanating from active parks, other conditions which negated any positive impact, and hear this, negated any positive impact, are poorly maintained parks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just enough to have a space there or
Sure.
a park. You have to maintain it. You have to invest in it. You know, don't look at it as funding. Look at it as an investment in the community and an investment in economic development in this city and growth in this city. Lack of visibility from streets, which provided better opportunities for antisocial behavior. So that was a factor that had to weigh into what kind of impact the open space or parks would have on it. So I've left this full, there's actually a 27-page report which this is drawn from. But in summary, let me just say that I think we're really at a crossroads here, Baltimore is, especially given the high number of vacant and abandoned properties in the city. If we don't act with some forethought and vision, we could be missing what I believe is a truly golden opportunity, a once-in-a-century opportunity to develop a comprehensive park and open space plan, an opportunity like what this is a beginning, the Growing Green Initiative, an opportunity to really develop a plan that connects and networks all of our open spaces and parks together so that it's not just an isolated pocket here, but it's a continuous network of parks that all neighborhoods have access to and all neighborhoods will benefit from. And the city will be a direct beneficiary because you will see higher property values in those areas where you'll make the investment and create the green space. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman.
Yeah.
We appreciate it, and thank you again.
Thanks
So
again.
we'll be talking. I don't want to mention that Ms. Murdoch says she's moving to Hamden so she can be near the skate park. So I don't know if they took that in, but anyway. John Barrett. John, aren't you there? Oh, sorry. Okay.
So thank you, Chairman Stokes and honorable committee members, for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is John Berard. I am the Policy Director at Blue Water Baltimore. We want to thank the committee for its leadership on this very important issue and for taking the initiative to convene this diverse group of stakeholders to collaborate on this effort. We know that the preservation of Baltimore's existing parks and open space, as well as the addition of new multi-use green spaces, especially in underserved communities, will be critical for the long-term sustainability and vibrancy of the city. I've included some detailed comments in my submitted testimony, which I'll not go through, but I just want to take a few minutes to briefly lay out our 6 general recommendations for moving forward.
Sure.
First is to protect the existing 6,000 acres of open space from incompatible use. Any areas designated as open space by the city under its municipal zoning codes should remain as such. The city should make every effort, whether through legislation, regulation, or otherwise, to prevent incompatible uses from occurring on this space and to prevent variances to use prohibitions from being granted. Second, to seek opportunities to expand open space acreage, particularly but not limited to the Vacants to Value and Growing Green Initiative programs, which provide the city with the framework for reusing and redeveloping vacant land. Priority should be given to turning these properties into green spaces and adding them to the city's open space inventory, particularly, again, in underserved neighborhoods. Third, to effectively incorporate open space into the city's stormwater management program. The Department of Rec and Parks should work with DPW to identify opportunities for the installation of stormwater best management practices in city parks and open space. These BMPs should not be only functional at mitigating stormwater runoff, but they should also complement the surrounding natural landscape. Fourth, to make maintenance of existing tree canopy a priority. Trees have a number of ecological and economic co-benefits, and the City Council should ensure that a sufficient amount of funding is provided annually to the department to perform necessary maintenance on mature trees, which is by far the most cost-effective method of maintaining a robust and healthy tree canopy. Fifth, to increase tree planting. Existing open space provides a great opportunity for new tree planting of lands reclaimed by the city can be reforested as well. Several organizations, including many in this room, are already engaged in tree planting activities, and the city should seek to partner with them in this effort, in addition to engaging in its own citywide canopy expansion efforts. And finally, to provide opportunities for new, diverse public uses of open space. The city should incorporate new, innovative uses into parklands to create spaces that meet the changing needs of citizens. This includes existing assets such as courts and ball fields, but also new ones like hiking trails, dedicated play spaces for children, bike path networks, and dog parks. Equitable access to open space is good for communities, good for the environment, and good for public health. And it will be a critical component, as we've heard tonight, to Baltimore's future successes. So we thank you again for your proactivity, as well as for these initial efforts to engage the public and other stakeholders in this collaborative governance of the city's park and open space. And we look forward to working closely with you, relevant city departments, and other interested parties within the city on this effort. Thank you.
Great, thank you, and thank you for laying out these 6 points so well for us. Great.
Yeah, I didn't go through them on purpose because they're very extensive, so thank you.
Thank you. It's part of our record. Tim McGilloway.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Tom McGilloway. I share my comments as a Baltimore City resident of 28 years, an active volunteer with Friends of Wyman Park Dell and Friends of Stony Run, and as a professional landscape architect planner who authored numerous park master plans, including many for the city of Baltimore. If Baltimore wants to continue to improve the quality of life for its residents, attract new residents, and encourage additional economic development, indeed attract 10,000 new families, and a comprehensive look at our parks and open spaces is critical. Investments in these spaces must be elevated to consider not only capital dollar investment, but also maintenance, programming, and governance. The Olmsted Plans of 1904 and 1926 recognized the potential for a connected and comprehensive open space system throughout the city. While we are fortunate that much of this legacy is intact, some of it has been compromised with misconnections among open spaces, some incompatible land uses, and limited resources. Additionally, the open space needs of today's citizens have evolved and need to be met in new ways while respecting the historic legacy we have. A comprehensive plan needs to examine at least 6 elements. One, capital improvements. The plan needs to continue to enhance existing facilities, recreation centers, pavilions, ball fields, pathways, site furnishings, etc., and identify the needs for the location of new facilities, and also identify new types of facilities such as dog parks, skate parks, food vending venues, to name a few. These must serve all populations in the city. Two, ecology. The plan needs to be grounded in a sound understanding of ecological science. Breakthroughs in the field of urban ecology provide practical foundations upon which to design and develop advanced stormwater management systems, biologically rich landscapes, and climate-resilient communities. This knowledge can and should be woven into an updated open space plan that serves Baltimore now and into the future. World-renowned scientists at the Baltimore Ecosystem Study, Johns Hopkins, the University of Maryland, and others are pushing the boundaries in and around the city. We should capitalize on these assets and establish Baltimore as a premier national example of ecologically managed open space. Three, governance and maintenance. Equal consideration needs to be given to governing the open spaces, enforcement of rules, and maintenance of facilities as is given to capital investment. Quite simply stated, we need to manage and maintain what we build. Four, funding. Resources are severely limited to oversee an open space system of our size. We need dedicated funding for parks and open spaces. We need park-generated revenues that go back into the parks. Investment in our parks is economic development. Five, interdepartmental coordination. Our parks and open spaces are impacted and influenced not only by parks and recreation, but by transportation, public schools, public works, housing, and planning. All of these departments must be included in developing the plan, supporting the plan, and be held accountable for coordination and cooperation in meeting its goals. Lastly, public-private partnerships. While mechanisms are in place and intentions are laudable, the ability for private entities to improve our public parks and open spaces can be a cumbersome and frustrating process. Throughout the country, the most successful parks depend on a variety of public-private partnerships for funding, maintenance, and programming. Recognition of and streamlining the ability for public-private partnerships to thrive is crucial. Additionally, involving citizens, public and private stakeholders in the development of this plan will be instrumental so that these partners and potential partners are heavily invested in the outcomes. Developing the plan to guide us over the next decades in the development of a comprehensive system of parks and open spaces is an important and exciting endeavor for Baltimore. I appreciate the opportunity to testify tonight and look forward to continuing to be involved in the development of these parks and open spaces in the years to come. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, sir. And I would like to mention, Mr. Burkeen and Mr. Stoser, there are at least two persons in the room who have designed master park plans. I'm just saying, before you spend $1 million with some fancy guy from New York, maybe we can get a local discount.
We'll do it for $2 million.
I know that's right. I'm just saying. My president says buy local. That's what he says. So thank you very much. And I'll read something from the other master plan planner who's in the room with us this evening in just a moment. Nan Rohr.
Good evening, Councilman Stokes, Councilwoman. Thank you for allowing us to speak. My name is Nan Rohr. I'm here on behalf of the Downtown Partnership of Baltimore, and we're glad to be here to support our partners in the city. We've worked extensively, obviously, with Tom and Laurie and the rest of the planning department staff and certainly the mayor's office, and hope to continue to do so. I'm here specifically in support as the Downtown Partnership of Council Bill 150207R, and I'm here to talk specifically about the experiences we had in creating the Pratt Street Master Plan, which was released in 2008, and then our Open Space Master Plan, which was done in 2011. Both plans were completed with the support of the city, and what I can tell you is that these are two incredibly inclusive plans that have set expectations for a variety of things. Each plan took us, well, the Pratt Street plan was a little bit longer perhaps than the Open Space Master Plan. That took us about 2 to 3 years to complete, but incredibly inclusive of everybody that we could possibly come up with that had anything to say about Pratt Street, and certainly Open Space Master Plan as well. We included everyone that we possibly could, and I would stress that that is a key component to any master plan, regardless of whether it's a neighborhood or a citywide park plan. that knowing the citizens' interests and the business owners' interests and the property owners, it's the most important and key component to creating a good and effective plan. But what I can say from our experience is that these two plans have set expectations for short and long-term goals and needs, for capital and programmatic needs. We've identified public-private partnerships and the mutual benefits to all parties, and we've set funding and legislative policies, needs, and changes in these plans. And as we implement along a very clear path that was defined in these plans, we garner public support and public funds via the city's CIP program, through the state capital funds. We cultivate private funds from downtown property owners and business owners, and we identify grant funds and other resources. And as we create that to-do list, create the funding to complete that to-do list, then we go out and build those things. We've seen this with 100 East Pratt Street, with 400 East Pratt Street, Center Plaza, Wilkes Lane. We're about to kick off with Courthouse Square. We just did a huge event today for 100 Light Street. We don't stop. We have a to-do list, and we just keep cranking it out. Once those are completed, we privately maintain and manage them. We program them. We work with the city to do some of those maintenance endeavors. And then as these plans allow for this collaborative and clear plan for the creation and improvement of our public spaces, we get to reap the benefits and the excitement of seeing the citizens that are both business citizens and residential citizens really enjoy the space, as well as the tourists who come in for whatever, conventions, ball games, and just for fun. And it's great to see it. So we're excited to be as helpful as we possibly can to the city and to the departments specifically who will be working on this. And please consider us a continued partner in the endeavor. So thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Thank you. Linda McClary.
At the risk of beating you all over the head with the name Silburn Arboretum, I am the executive director, Linda McClary, of Silburn Arboretum Association, and I want to applaud all of you for giving us this opportunity to talk about open space. And I had prepared remarks that would address education and open space and greening and all that good stuff, but many of my colleagues, and I consider everyone here tonight my colleague, have spoken quite eloquently on that. So what I would like to say is I would like to add to a couple of the comments tonight. One, someone posed the question, what does it mean, open space? And I want to add something to that definition. I want us all to consider that it means accessibility. Open space means it's open to everyone. And from any walk of life, from any area, from any country. We in Baltimore, and at Silburn in particular, I can't speak for all the other parks, but we see people from all over the world come into these parks. So we as Baltimore parks need to start thinking about the face we put on this to the world, not just locally. Also, we've said a lot about young people and what these parks mean to our young people, and I do not wish to take anything away from that because they are the stewards of tomorrow of taking care of these parks. But I have also want to say something about us old folks, because at Silburn, 75% of our volunteers, and we have over 200, are seniors. And what this does for them is absolutely invaluable. In return for their investment in working, it brings them out of isolation. It brings them to a team. It brings them to a place of belonging. And I'm sure this works in many of the other parks as well. It brings them outdoors. It brings them outside of their homes, and they talk to people, much like in the old days when people sat on their stoops and talked to their neighbors. This is what our parks are doing for our seniors as well. It's also having them exercise, something they're not doing at home by themselves. But if they come out and they walk on the trails and well-maintained gardens and things like that, they are getting that exercise as well. So that's the end of my soapbox. And I just want to also thank Mr. Burkeen because he's got the same longevity I have. Silburn's seen a lot of executive directors, and Parks and Rec have seen a lot of chiefs, and I just think this is grand that he's still here with us. So I hope you're sticking around.
All right.
Great. Thanks, Mr.
Great
Clary.
sauce.
Councilwoman?
I definitely get what you're saying. One of our senior centers is right in the center of Patterson Park.
Right.
So, you know.
And we have Levendale Sinai right across the street, and
Right.
often they bring their immobile patients over in buses just to participate in some of our programs and some of the things we're doing there. And by accessibility, I also mean free. We got a lot of private parks that charge admission, and thanks to you all and thanks to Baltimore City residents, we can still keep those doors and gates open free.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
For bringing your testimony. Mary Page, I'm sorry, yeah, Mary Page. No, Mary Page Michael, of course.
Thank you, Councilman Stokes, and my councilwoman, Sharon Green Middleton. My kids just texted me, "Where are you? We're starving." So I'm going to be really quick. So I have become a lover of Olmsted. I was not a historian in school, but I have fallen in love with Olmsted, and what an incredible blueprint he gave Baltimore in 1904 and then later in 1926, and what an incredible opportunity for us here in Baltimore to take what he gave us and expand on it. One of the things that I love that Olmsted said was that parks are the most democratic place, that it doesn't matter your race, your religion, your age, your sex, that everyone congregates in parks, and that's part of the reason why I've fallen in love with parks. So many people have said so much smarter things than I will say to you, but our community in North Baltimore created a master plan, and Tom Stozier was wonderful, Councilwoman Middleton was wonderful in helping guide us. But what a wonderful thing it would be to have that tied into the city's greater vision of what they wanted to do with parks, and how wonderful that would be if we were all working together to achieve certain goals in certain areas. And I think that would be wonderful. And I just want to say how great it is that you all are doing this, and I look forward to being part of it in the future. Thanks.
I just want to say, how in the world could I have forgotten basically the fight to keep that wonderful land right there at Falls Road, the corridor, where I think that was the test for me and my support for parks when I first came on board on the council, and we fought to keep that area open space, and we'll continue to keep that open space. So
Still working on that.
Thank you. That
Yeah.
brought back some wonderful memories.
Thank you.
And let me just mention, thank you again, that the other gentleman who's in the room who has had quite the experience in terms of master planning, in terms of park, is Mr. Dean Rundle. Did I pronounce your name properly, sir? Rundell, and who by request of Chris Delaporte, we've copied his letter for the record, which is at the table outside. You may have picked it up, but just some highlights. My wife and I just moved from Indiana to Baltimore area last fall to be close to our kids and grandchildren. And they've chosen to live in Sudbrook Park in Pikesville, a location of particular interest to me as a landscape architect and urban designer, as it is the only residential community in Maryland designed by Frederick L. Olmsted. We have been in the area for a few months, enjoying the legacy that's here. As the founder of Rundell Ertzberger Associates, a landscape architectural and urban design firm in Indianapolis, not in the Annapolis, well, that's another story, and Louisville. I have had the opportunity, I'm the only one who saw that. You with me? You with me? Okay.
That time in the evening.
No, they're with me. They know what I'm talking about. So I have had the opportunity to design several urban open spaces and parks that have become catalysts for recreation, entertainment, and social interaction. They have also been generators of significant economic development and redevelopment, creating increased municipal revenue. This is a consideration not often brought to light when discussing park and open space planning, just as Councilman Landers mentioned earlier to us. However, Olmsted saw this very attribute when he wrote in 1884 about public parks as a means of health, vigor, moral nature, and community prosperity. I would like to point out campus, is it Marsh's Park? In Detroit, Michigan, as a current day example of the power of parks and open space green infrastructure to generate significant economic development. REA, the company of Mr. Rundell, was selected as park designer in 2000. The park opened in 2004. The park, only 2.5 acres in size, is one of the last vestiges of the Boulevard Plan for Detroit, laid out in 1807 by Judge Woodard. The park was featured in Landscape Architecture magazine article, Miracle in Woodard Avenue. In 2010, Urban Land Institute awarded the park the first Amanda Burden Urban Open Space Award, recognizing as the most transformative urban park in the country. This particular gathering, it's called Detroit's Gathering Place, is a catalyst for downtown vitality. It has 2 million visitors a year and has generated development and redevelopment investments in excess of $700 million within 2 blocks of the park. CompuWare, a software development company, moved from its suburban location into a new $400 million headquarters fronting directly on the park, and recently Quicken Loans moved 1,700 employees from suburbia into the new CompuWare building. I just wanted to also read some of Mr. Rundell's piece.
Mr. Burkeen is dying to say something on that.
Mr. Burkeen is dying to say something.
That's in his stomping ground.
I need you to. Thank you, sir.
Campus Martius was a vision that we had in Detroit, which was in the 90s.
Okay.
I left before it became a reality, but it was our vision to make that change, just as it was to reclaim the waterfront. Much of the waterfront in Detroit was industrial.
Okay.
And we created what we call a bridge-to-bridge walking path, but we had 2 obstacles, which were cement factories that were on the riverfront. We couldn't get development down there because of the cement down there. And it took pretty much 30 years for us to finally get rid of the cement factories, and you should see the waterfront now.
Oh,
I mean,
great.
it's really a vibrant place, and Campus Martius is really. Every time I see it, I have these good feelings because I was a part of the vision.
Great. Others have signed up, but they didn't check testify. So is anyone else who wishes to testify? Great, just come up. Sandy, are you speaking? Yeah, I'll say a few words. Come on up, please. I'll bring everybody. I'm asking Sandy to come forward, please.
Yes.
Come on.
Sandy Sparks, longtime park advocate, and it gives me, it's very heartening to be here today, to think that we're finally going to have a comprehensive park and recreation plan for the city after
Great.
all these years of talking about it. And I have with me a great program that we put together in 2000 called the Great Urban Park Sustaining the Legacy.
Oh, good.
And we had a conference here, and it actually next week will be 15 years. And we brought together people from across the country. And one of the fun features that we had was a rally out front of City Hall. It was before the City Hall Plaza was turned green. And we really did create a vision. And much of what you can see in this report could have been written today, just as easily as it was 15 years ago. The thing that I would say is that we must have the leadership to move this forward.
Right.
At that time, we had a lot of support, but it wasn't real, honest-to-God leadership. And that's what we need to make it happen. So those would be my few parting words. I think everyone else said more than enough. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. We appreciate it, and we'll make sure. Sure, come on up. Those who wish to speak, would you just please come to the podium, please? Just walk up, and we'll go. Thank you. bring up the microphone, sir, and identify yourself, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jim Brown. I'm a lifelong Baltimore resident, and I'm a board member of Baltimore, as well as the Friends of Gwens Falls Leakin Park. But in my day job, I work at the Rails to Trails Conservancy, which is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to helping communities build trail connections to the places they love, helping people get active in and connected to the places they live, work, play, and cherish. Rails to Trails Conservancy's recent work in Baltimore, our recent work in Baltimore has resulted in over 50 middle school students receiving bicycles in East Baltimore as part of multiple service learning projects in which students participate in community service while learning how to access parks in their communities and how to safely operate a bike on city streets and in our great public open spaces. We have partnered with M&T Bank and Baltimore City Department of Parks and Recreation to provide the city with a fleet of bicycles for citizens to use in the popular ride-around programs in our wonderful parks. And most recently, I was able to have a ribbon-cutting ceremony with Director Burkeen on a snowy spring Saturday on the most recently completed section of the Jones Falls Trail. So Rails to Trails has done all of this and more by partnering with local organizations and community groups dedicated to using public open space as a vital part of their neighborhood fabric. This ongoing work has led us to take a look at Baltimore in terms of the unique opportunities that exist to create a truly world-class open space and park network, which can act as a neighborhood revitalization tool and an impetus to attract economic development to the city in support of the ongoing goals of attracting new families while becoming a cleaner and greener city. There are tremendous opportunities to use these large parks, major anchor institutions, stream valleys, underused former industrial land, railroad corridors, and new development parcels to create a citywide network of these open spaces and transportation corridors in unison with projects such as the Red Line and in new redeveloping neighborhoods. We are in a unique situation to revisit the Olmsted Plan of the early 20th century and Parks and People Foundation's One Park concept of the early 21st century. Revising these plans for a Baltimore currently experiencing a renaissance of new economies and population growth after decades of population decline can lead to a connected open space network of urban trails and public spaces which will attract residents, retain existing residents, improve the quality of life and public health for all, and also help our major employers attract and retain talent in a competitive market where people of all ages are seeking to live in communities which have accessible open space and safe ways to travel around the city. Other cities have already turned these types of barriers in their landscapes into connectors, and they are now reaping the rewards. In Atlanta, the first section of the 22-mile linear park called the Atlanta Beltline, the first section cost roughly $40 million to build, and that was a mix of public and private financing. But in the first 10 years, it has attracted over $450 million in real estate investment and development. So that's a return of investment 8 times over. And we've already heard from Lisa at Parks and People about Pittsburgh's Three River Trail, where 22 miles of urban trail networks and parks have turned into an economic development tool that has redefined the city, attracting investment, new businesses, and residents that want to live near their vibrant public parkland on what was once former industrial brownfields. And next month in Chicago, the 606 project is turning miles of former rail lines into a connected park, serving the city's residents and attracting private investment. It will formally open in 1 month to much celebrated national fanfare. So in closing, in Baltimore, Rails to Trails is working on this emerging coalition made up of major employers, local nonprofits, community development corporations, neighborhood groups, and community advocates that are working towards creating a similar connected network here. Tentatively, we are calling it Baltimore's Emerald Necklace in a nod to Olmsted's earlier vision, but we're hoping to invite the community to participate in a more localized branding process. But with the existing opportunities of the urban Stream Valley network, we have this great bones for this network, and by filling in a few strategic gaps, we can work on this 30-mile loop that we're talking about to create a truly unique world-class trail system. So I urge the City Council and all relevant public agencies to support the Department of Parks and Rec in their goal of comprehensive open space plan, along with the Department of Planning, so that Baltimore can take advantage of all that it has to offer, so the city can continue sustained growth in all its forms. And for the record, I'll submit an early planning document that we've been working on with local city agencies and local nonprofits to determine what this open space network could look like, and a one-page fact sheet.
Okay, great. Thank you very, very much. We'll enter this into the records, and we appreciate it. We're good.
Good evening, everyone who's left.
Good evening.
I'm Heidi Grundmann from the Friends of Gwynns Falls League Park and also from the Gwynns Falls Trail Council. And I want to make sure that we were represented, as we are the largest park in Baltimore City and much of the East Coast, as Gwynns Falls League Park, and one of the longest parks, I think, in an urban area, the Gwynns Falls Trail. And they hang together because the trail goes through the park, and that's how I got involved. I'm a 49-year-long resident of Baltimore City, have worked and played and volunteered here all my life. I came to Baltimore as we were fighting I-70 coming through the city, and joined that fight, and out of that fight evolved one of the first Friends groups in Baltimore City, which has been active in various ways all this time. I'm also one of the seniors, which we are talked about before. I'm one of the maybe 75% of volunteers, and that's very true for Gwynns Falls League Park. We work every Tuesday morning with about 5 to 10 volunteers physically, all over 70 years old, and we're trying to maintain trails, make them more sustainable, and facilitate working with volunteers. So every one volunteer facilitates other volunteer hours. And I'd like to just, as an example, give you a little statistics. Like if we have, and I'm really grateful to the park system that they have facilitated more in later years, and after I have lived through 20 directors, that now we are much more open to Friends groups, cooperating, coordinating Friends activities, so we're well informed and can best serve with our own talents. We're all professionals in our Friends groups, that we have talents to give, and they are more and more recognized and acknowledged and worked with, so we become much stronger partners thanks to our new leadership and attempts of some long-term employees who had that vision. So if one takes, one group has 10 active volunteers, not just the paying members, really physically active volunteers. If you say we have right now over 50 groups, but for the math's sake, make it easy, 50 groups, 10 active volunteers, 500 volunteers. And if they each give 10 hours a week, which is minimal, because many of us give 20 and 30 hours a week, that gives 28,000 hours a year at $10 each, and that's very modest fee attributed to that, $280,000 value for those volunteers, and we have many more of that. And as I said, they bring in grant money, and they facilitate, if each volunteer facilitates 3 hours of volunteer time just a year, just imagine how this multiplies. And we're training ourselves, we attend work session, the park system and Parks and People offer training sessions. So we grow as we grow new volunteers. And so we need to see the value, and I think that's where we need the City Council help to be very supportive of parks and the value of that, because you make contacts with your constituencies and can emphasize how valuable the parks are in keeping them clean and volunteering for them and recognizing the value of our open spaces. One other concerns I have, I'm not only an advocate for Gwynns Falls Leakin Park and the Gwynns Falls Tri-Council. Living in the city for this long, I've gotten to know it very well, and I'm very much in favor of supporting open spaces. But there's a difference between vacant space and open space. And I think we need to all understand that there's an opportunity in the vacant spaces we create to make open, usable, community-centered spaces out of that. And there's much known about designing community space. And the most impressive place I've seen in New York, just by happening to be there, coming from the Highland Trail, which of course is a super experience, coming across a little triangle between two merging streets, and there is a few benches, a few chairs, and people eating, drinking, having fun space in a space which is not bigger than this room. And that leads me to what visions can create, and no vision is too small to possibly, make it possible. And that's where we have to start, thinking small and growing with each small step we're taking. We're telling that to our children, but I think we need to tell ourselves. We should not say, and I have people in my own family saying, oh, I can't do that, that can't be done. Yes, it can be done if we have the vision and carry to it. And I think that's what the Olmsteds told us. They had a vision, whether we stick exactly to the suggestions they made. They had a vision and says, yes, it is possible. And so did Mr. Frederick Olmsted, of course, first. And that contains also to the real problem Mr. Hager and others emphasized, that maintenance of the facilities we already have is absolutely crucial to keep them attractive for people coming there. And each scratch on the wall, each graffiti thing, each pothole in the trail or elsewhere will be created or will be neglected, we will have another one, and it adds on to it. And unless the agencies work all together, it's a system. It's a park system, not only among the parks and the recreation programs, but it's a system with DPW and and transportation department. Everything depends on each other. And then if ever, and I'm very much in support of this master plan, but it needs to be all conclusive between the agencies and the other partners to not only see the opportunities, but to make sure things work most efficiently. And that hasn't happened yet, and I think that's where your city council people are the middlewomen, to help us out in really creating that cohesion of a plan and to foster it. And I like to challenge the city council, not just you good guys who are here today, but all members of city council and the mayor. Spend 5 to 10 minutes every single day about parks and recreation and what's necessary and possible in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to give testimony? Of course, come on up. Let me mention, as the gentleman comes forward, that we do have a letter from Jennifer Robinson, the Friends of Patterson Park, and some points of her letter that Patterson Park played the redevelopment of Patterson Park has played a significant positive role in the community development and neighborhoods surrounding the park. I think that was mentioned earlier also. They followed the master plan, and the park, which was a place of illegal activity and a place to be avoided, now is at the point of overuse. And so folk are figuring out how to direct people away from the park in a positive way, which means we have to grow and the other spaces. They're not complaining about that fact that it's at the point of overuse. They're actually applauding it, but saying here's an opportunity to go a few blocks northeast, west, south, and do something. And then the Riverside Neighborhood Association also speaks to their master plan and how the Riverside Park has become a source of neighborhood pride. All of this is in the bill file, in the record. Let me thank my colleague, hold on, for staying. I think I owe her at least dinner, at least dinner. May not be tonight, but she says yes, at least that much. And I'll see if Tom and Ernest will see that I use their city card as opposed to. Thank you, sir.
Oh,
We
sure, my
appreciate it.
pleasure. My name is Robert Ray, and I know I'm between you and dinner, so I will keep my remarks very brief. I have 3 small technology companies down in Canton. We've been doubling in size every year for the past few years, and we plan to, hopefully, if all goes well, hire 100 employees between now and the next 3 years. Many of these new positions are going to be high-paying jobs, engineers, people doing strategy, and these are people that have the ability to live in any city that they want. And it's critical that when they're looking around at jobs in different cities, that Baltimore is a competitive space for us to be able to recruit our team. And this has come up before, but if the mayor really does want to have 10,000 families here, this is a big piece of that puzzle. And it came to my attention, somebody told me that it's been a decade since we built a comprehensive plan, and people have talked about this a lot through the evening. But I think it's really critical to have a plan that's been well thought through, that incorporates lots of agencies. And the lack of a plan is very apparent when you go through our parks right now. And so I strongly encourage that a couple things are considered. That maybe that there's a no net loss open space policy that's that's considered. I think we can maybe follow in the footsteps of Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and some other cities that have implemented these types of strategic plans. So no net loss of new open space, require new developments to have adequate open space, evaluate and correct issues causing some of our parks to be privatized. There's probably people that can speak in more detail on that issue, but I think that's worth investigating. And then finally, ensure that our open spaces are sustainable, maintained, meeting the residents' needs, and accessible. So that's all I have, and I'll let you guys get to dinner.
Great.
So,
Thank you. Did you get the gentleman's name? Could you restate your name, please?
Robert Ray.
Okay, great.
I have a copy here for you if you'd like.
Great, and we'll take that. Thank you. Again, we thank our super leaders and Mr. Stoser, Mr. Burkeen, and your very capable staff who wrote everything you had to say. But Laura, you agree with that? You didn't write his? Oh, you did? I'm impressed. So we thank you, and we thank the advocates, again, who for the past 20, 30 years have been really, really, really doing a great job, and we appreciate you. So thanks for coming out tonight and for enlightening us and allowing the rest of the city to see and hear. And we look forward to, as we say, not leaving this here as just another hearing, informational hearing. We look forward to working together to bring this to fruition. Thank you. Good night. Thank you, dear.